All right, I will call to order at 6:33. And before we take attendance, I'm going to have Becca speak because I know some people need to leave or something. But this is Becca Herman, one of our advisors.
Hi everyone. So I'm Becca Herman. I work in student activities. I'm your advisor. Student activities conducts a demographic survey of all of the members of our programs. So some of you may have done this if you're in like community outreach or if you're a student worker in student activities. So it's a survey. I also want you to read these instructions, like the way faculty do for evaluations. So you can read the instructions. I'm going to pass out the demographic surveys. These are for senators to take. Senators. That includes ex-officio senators, but it does not include exec members unless they're also senators. Okay? Also, and justices. Okay. So, student activities is seeking to understand demographic information about our student leaders so that we can better design training and support and better advise our groups. So please take a moment to fill out this short survey. It will only take about a minute. We know that some of this information is private. Our goal is to protect the information, so we're taking the following steps to do so. The survey is anonymous. Your name will never be collected and you will not be tied to the information. So do not put your name on it. Please. All the data will be aggregated so that no one person's information will ever be available on its own. Last year, student activities collected over 1,000 of these surveys. You will put your own sheet in the envelope. After everyone's information is in the envelope, I will seal it, deliver it to the student activities main office where it will be kept in a locked cabinet. I, as your advisor, will never see the information in the envelope. Take one to pass it. And I'm going to leave the envelope here.
So people might be absent, maybe absent.
Are there any extras?
No, dude, you just gotta chew it and then it breaks up and then it comes back. No, no. Well, I know. Break it up. And you can chew it. Then it comes back.
Okay, no, you're welcome to ask about this.
Raven, Shama, you two have to take this survey. Please. And Tyler, as well. The survey that I was getting in. I've been building it for I've been building it I'm running this I'm running this calendar just because I can't not. I mean, in case you have time, I'm not going to really take it out to
Does anyone still have a survey?
Yeah.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Alright, thank you, Becca. Is Alright. Bye, Erica. Alright, we're gonna get this meeting back under the way. And George is currently procuring a roster for me to take attendance because I forgot one. So we're going to move straight into public comment where we have a member from the Office of Emergency Management who's here to speak. You can just come up here, state your name, reason why you're here, and then go right ahead.
I do have a presentation for
Do you get to... If not, I can just...
Hello, everybody. I am Blaze Levitan. I work at the Division of Public Safety's Office of Emergency Management, and I'm here today to kind of introduce the new office and some of the emergency preparedness initiatives that are going on across campus. So we're going to dive into a couple, just kind of top level things that are happening, and if anybody wants me to expand on anything, please feel free to just let me know. So just before we get started in exactly what we're doing, this office, Office of Emergency Management, OEM, is located down in the public safety complex. Police and fire building, some of you may know it, down at the division, 126 North Louisville Road. We have the fire department, as well as the Office of Emergency Management, and a 911 full dispatch center. So we also have our IT division down there. Okay, so who we are right now, we have a fire lieutenant, or a fire captain, who currently is kind of our daily director. His name is Chris Renshaw. He's a two-time graduate of UConn. He's been working here for the last 11 years in the fire department. We have a liaison from the UConn Police Department in OEM, Chris Casa, and he's been here for about 16 years. And then we have two full-time civilian staff, myself and Mary Rose Barrett. I'm also a two-time graduate of UConn, and Mary Rose is a graduate of UConn. She comes to us, bleed blue all the way, whole office. Mary Rose just joined our office back in January, so she's pretty new. She came from the state of Connecticut with a lot of experience. She's got 18 years as a regional planner. She was actually the first female regional planner who's kind of been leading an initiative at the state where she came over here, which is pretty cool. We just started this office back in August of 2014. Just kind of so it's pretty new, and we've only expanded recently. Mary Rose just joined us in January, and the other two are assigned also to regular fire and police duties. So here's our mission statement. I won't read through it. Let's read it up there. But basically, when we first started, we were tasked to there's a lot of good emergency preparedness things happening at UConn. And basically, the role overall of emergency management is to take all those good things that are happening in all the different divisions and across all of our campuses and bring them into one centralized place. Document everything that's going on, keep track of everything, and also facilitate some new initiatives. So some of the core components that we have, and just let me know, I'm just going to speak away from the mic, so let me know if you can't hear me. Some of the core initiatives that we have going on at the office are across all of our campuses. So when you think about UConn and responding to an emergency, there's one thing we have our stores-based operations. We're lucky we're with a full-time police department and fire department here. But we also have to coordinate all the resources. If something happens within the town of Groton or the city of Stamford, it's their police department, their fire department, and also their resources that are working with UConn. And it's reaching out to all the different offices of emergency management, the state of Connecticut, our emergency operations center, and coordinating how all of that's going to happen, make sure it happens smoothly, and facilitate training between all of us on a regular basis. And also make sure eventually we're bringing in the UConn Health Center as well, so that everybody across UConn has the same training, same standard terminology. All of our students are exposed to the same training. Taking a night class over at the West Hartford campus, and you're here during the day. It's all going to be, everything is the same. And so that's kind of the whole goal. And our major components in the Office of Emergency Management are emergency operations plan, the EOP, which we're revamping over the last year and a half. It's a state requirement, but it's something that we're really trying to take to the next level. And EOP, just in a real basic nutshell, is the whole summary of how the university and all of our partners are going to kind of respond, all the roles and responsibilities, everything's defined, and that is how things being new. Another thing we have working on, and I know especially like for seniors, some of this stuff is, some of these things are years in the working, but knowing that this has all been happening, going on in the background, is definitely helpful, comforting to know that this has been happening for a while. The continuity of operations plan is basically identifying essential business functions and how are we going to keep the university going. If there was something traumatic that happened here, how would we make sure that there's still academic operations going on? We have plans, we have our people, and then we have our training and our teamwork. Recovery plan, we're looking at long term. If there is a disaster, we want to be able to supply our community, the whole community, faculty, staff, students, families, with resources for potentially years. If there was an incident that happened, we definitely want to make sure that we had mental health services going on for a long time, potentially, or academic reciprocity with other institutions. Hurricane Katrina struck New Orleans. There's a lot of damage to the schools down there, and basically you had Tulane closed down for years, and their students, and they had agreements with all the other universities. Their students kept being able to continue. They took all the credits, and it was an easy transfer that they had figured out in place. And we're working on things like that for UConn. The executive policy group, we're really lucky here that team, pretty much all the executives in the university meet once a month to talk about emergency preparedness and new policies. The emergency operations team training and collaboration. Those are the real kind of big nutshell to take it out of this. So I'll go back to the image that we had up here first. The initiative I think that is most important to our student body and to our population up front. First touched on what's going on in the back end, all the real important things that are happening every day. But it's also kind of the whole preparedness. When we're making plans and doing all this other stuff on the back end, we're making models, coming up with a lot of planning assumptions, taking on risk assessments, and if we were making assumptions that basically X is exhibition and counting will apply for the most part. So if our planning assumptions aren't accurate, then the plan is not as good a plan. And part of the assumptions that we have to make are that we are doing community outreach, that the population that we're looking to protect, the fire department expects that people will act in certain behavior. And a lot of that goes into planning. That's why public outreach is so important. And so the office has been working, we've had a lot of, trying to reach out with student input, as well as most of our partners across a lot of people from student affairs and university communications. They actually designed us a little logo right here to start our own emergency preparedness campaign. So, public outreach campaign, and it was modeled after the Ready campaign, Ready.gov, kind of really basic Ready.gov kind of program, the emergency preparedness at a real general level to get people aware about the different resources. We have a lot of resources available on campus, and we want to make sure that we have different methods of communicating that information out. So, we put this thing together, and I'll actually be seeking eventually, I'm going to give you my email at the end of this, but feedback from everybody here to see what kind of people think about what are the most beneficial and effective ways of communication. We've reached out to different student groups. I think I already spoke on this, even some of the people in this room, and a lot with Dr. Gilbert, who's been coordinating some of this stuff with us. And we're just about to be launching what's going on. But it's one thing if I basically told myself, I have a responsibility to be prepared. But it's a different thing we're trying to push eventually, is that it's kind of every Husky's responsibility. And we're all creating a community that's proud and safe. So pushing it onto it's Husky's responsibility. We're all here to get safe, help each other out, and make sure that if someone doesn't know what maybe certain resources are, that we come together to share some of that information. So some of the plans that we're hoping that people start seeing throughout 2016, the rest of basically this month now, we're finally getting push on is to start launching a preparedness campaign. We rebranded the Division of Public Safety recently. We have a new website that we launched in November, and kind of as a division, police, fire, fire marshal's office, and the Office of Emergency Management. And we just started. It gave us a whole new look, a lot more new resources, a lot more user-friendly. Reach out. We're going to be looking for seasonal guidance. So if there's hurricane season, put some information out about hurricanes. And if there's another winter weather's coming, information about winter weather, emergency alerts, so I'll roll some of the things that we've already put out. We've put out a few so far, waters, a few daily digests. I know, I'm sure if anybody's seen the daily digests that have gone out, but also been in the daily campus a few times. The Chronicle came in, just a quick story. We put out an emergency management bulletin in January to staff and faculty as well as all our students. Just trying to get people familiar with some of the new terminology that our system will be using. So this is kind of where we've been so far while we're testing out some of the things that we're doing. Again, brand new office, a lot of resources being coordinated, and Mary Rose and I are the only two people that are assigned full time at all over campus. So we're going to be looking to Division of Public Safety 2016 here, but we are going to be getting on social media as a Division of Public Safety. So we'll have a lot more resources, and I'll expand a little bit on the YouTube channel and the Instagram feed, some of the other ones will be coming out with hopefully pretty soon. Just trying to make the Division of Public Safety and all of our information a lot more accessible to the students, and the information a lot more effectively communicated. So, right now, publications that we're looking at going forward, we have a planning tool that at the end of this month should go live, just kind of guide people through an interactive way to fill out a personal emergency plan, whether you're a commuter, select if you're a resident on campus, and just ask you some questions that you may not be thinking about, like knowing two ways out of your building, or having a rally point outside of your roommates, and just trying to coordinate some information with parents, insurance, or whatnot. The OEM bulletin went out that will go start every semester with emergency preparedness information. The hazard guide is probably our most beneficial resource on the website, and OEM that you go in there, you go to hazard guide right on the homepage to learn more about it. We have the following ones up there right now, and it's the what to do scenarios. It's mirrored training across pretty much. It's got modeling from all the perspectives of campus. So there's definitely some good resources on there. We have right now active threat, the before, the things to look at for behavior, or some of the other student resources that we have on there for referring people, what to look for on mental health services, and then also the during, and as well as potentially after, even power failure. And then our terminologies on there as well. What does shelter in place mean? If that's what our emergency health system is going to be using. And we have found in the past that terms like maybe shelter in place, for example, people leave the building they're in and are looking for the place that the shelter is set up. And shelter in place doesn't mean stay put. So back to the planning assumptions, if we're making an assumption that someone knows what shelter in place means, we're trying to cover quiet. We're really trying to push just even some of this basic terminology, some of the basic systems that we have out here. And I won't bother going in and showing you the website, but if you're also running a student group, if you go into our website, we have a training calendar on there. It has a guide, it's pretty easy to navigate to. It's available, it uses Google Translate, so it is available in around, I think it's 84 languages, roughly, with the Google Translate accuracy in case not much picking. It has a news section on there, but you can also link over to the police department. So if you're running a student group, and student groups look to sometimes request the active threat training for their student group or getting people together, you can go on forums online with the community outreach program on the police website as well. They all link to each other, and you can submit a request to bring in some police training as well to your student group for what to do in those scenarios. Another thing, probably the next thing we have an intern right now from the design media program helping us out a lot with a lot of our publications, and Seconds for Safety is something that we really want to push out on. It's based on kind of the national model, but we came up with it kind of on our own. And we have right now 15 to 20 different topics that we want to push out. One of the most popular ones for everybody, fortunately it's on almost everybody's mind, is active shooter or active threat. And it's the Run, Hide, Fight campaign. Everyone's kind of trying to get actually a Run, Hide, Fight. So it's just pushing some of this kind of information out there. And the goal of using the UConn Ready program here for all of our different publications is that people start to see that all the time. Students are seeing it, faculty and staff, and somewhere back here, kind of just tucks that, familiar image. I think the Golden Arches, McDonald's, or some kind of branded different products. We're trying to brand safety information here and make it not like the standard pamphlets or flyers that you typically see from some here government agencies. So definitely also we're looking, if anybody has any feedback on any of these publications or methods that we're kind of looking to reach out over the next few years, we'll definitely look for some feedback on it. The goal here as well with Seconds for Safety is that we can also dive into seasonal topics and a few of the other, if there's a special event on campus, we can kind of tie it to what's going on, knowing 2 ways out. And it brings it back to that, think that image. We had up here 2 students from Seton Hall University in 2014, and I think they'll be coming up again to speak. And it kind of drove home the need for Seconds for Safety, just simple things, knowing 2 ways out, in this whole community program. These 2 students at Seton Hall University, if you don't know the story, they had a fire in their dorm back in 2000, and every single day, right, we all come into our dorm room, and we walk in, and when we leave our room, we go left. And every day we go left, 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 and there's a fire in the building, basically, and I'm not sure if they should take it seriously. This is nothing out of the ordinary. Every day you go left, not as an emergency, naturally, all of a sudden you're under stress, you act, you don't act as well. Come out, you go left, you walk through the fire, and basically you get burns to most of your body. And that's what happened. And there was an exit to the right. When they came here and said, if I just took the time to know 2 ways out of my building, then none of this really would happen. And all I had to do was turn right, but every day I go left. And so it was just figuring out even something as simple as that. How do we get that kind of information just to get someone to think about it, or some kind of common way to start getting people on the way. So, was also asked to touch on a few of the other initiatives that we have going on campus that we might be looking for feedback on. We're expanding the emergency alerting systems, going through revamping. This is like your texting, posting to Facebook, the alert.upenn.edu, kind of getting all the new facelift and a little bit more expansive and detailed approach at how that system's working with standardized templates and terminology. A lot of good system in place right now, but just every day looking for ways we can make this a little bit better. We're also looking at how we can incorporate mobile technology into emergency preparedness. There's a lot of mobile safety applications out there. There's a lot of different resources that we can start using mobile technology for peer escorting purposes, reporting, also the My UConn app. Right now, I think that we can really, I personally think we can really maybe push the My UConn app a a little bit more expanded, especially in the emergency section. Want people to download as few apps as possible. I think it's probably the way to go. So if we can tuck as much information as possible, I think even one of my goals is to maybe get the hazard with the common icons and put into the My UConn app, so you have to go back right there with that. Expanded training. We're going to be coming out and doing a lot more talking, a lot more flyers, a lot more training, and we're also looking down the road to eventually get online, get some webinars on there, some short videos custom made for UConn, that goes all over campuses, and even some streaming services, and also make something that's like, no one's watching, 40-minute video, taking a 2-hour training class most of the time, so something we can get like right from Instagram, nice, real quick, just tap on it, grab a tip. Physical security initiative, one thing that went out that we got a lot of feedback on in the emergency management bulletin in January. We had also mentioned the physical security initiative. That's the whole classroom door locking program, and basically the Division of Public Safety also has somebody working in physical security. And across our campus and all of the other regional campuses, we have basically looking at building a physical security system. And this physical security is hardening the infrastructure that's in place now. There's prevention, such as the student care team, which I'm not sure if everyone knows about what a student care team. Studentcareteam.uconn.edu is an excellent resource to look at mental health services or reporting students of concern or someone that is concerned and maybe get help or someone reach out to them. We have a student care team, so that's like a prevention type of technique. Also looking at physical security. The classroom door locking program is pretty well on the way. We have an individual and a committee set up across people reporting, faculty reporting some potential door locks, whether they pull out the doors quickly, and things like that. And then the Emergency Operations Center is something that's been going on here for a long time, but really kind of revamping how we pre-plan for a lot of the events on campus. So just give you some comfort in the background, know that the center down at public safety that kind of opens up for any kind of large-scale event on campus, and basically just get together some of our resources in the community and around the UConn community, just let them know, put an infrastructure in place that if something did happen, it could be switched on pretty quickly, and there'd be a lot of help there. It's not like a center that's all the time here, it's just an infrastructure basically in place with coordinated resources if we ever need it. So I tried to breeze through that pretty quickly. I know I've given this presentation to probably a couple people in here, but basically that's the Office of Emergency Management in a nutshell, and that's kind of what we have going on. Feel free to visit our website and also email us. The simple one is my name's oen@uconn.edu. Any preparedness questions, any tips, any public speaking recommendations from me, I'm definitely open to criticism on that. We appreciate it. And thank you.
So we'll have about 5 minutes for anyone who has any questions for Blaze. Yes, Cassandra.
Well, my daughter goes to St. Paul, and she told me about some of the kind of extreme measures that they've taken since the fire. I just wanted to know, have you taken a look at their safety plans? Have you looked at the intent of those at UConn?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have Seton Hall, the UConn Fire Department. I don't want to speak on their behalf, but they basically, after Seton Hall, really pushed a lot of measures through. So, like sprinklers in all residential buildings and sprinklers that you see everywhere basically came out of Seton Hall, and as well as some of the response plans, kind of 2 ways out. For us in planning, the nice thing about kind of revamping this program is that we've also, the community in emergency management, so we reached out, we've read about 60 other university emergency operation plans to see what other peer institutions are doing. We kind of compared both on how similar they are to UConn, size, demographic, being top 20 school, and basically just to see what other schools are doing, as well as there's an accreditation program for emergency management. There's only 3 other universities. We've been in contact with them as well, and even looking at like Virginia Tech, what happened after reading some of the after actions, whether it's Boston Bombings, trying to pull best practices in. And now that we have Mary Rose from the state, she's been pretty good resources on best practices of the state, what is working for our schools and what isn't working for our schools. So we definitely are reaching out to peer institutions to get lessons learned.
Any other questions? Tyler?
As far as like if we is there any way that I know you can get a consumer, is there any way
Is there
is there a way that we should do that? Like we university it's like here's the emergency, it's really a thing in this situation. And I like we had a mom that 2 years ago, it was he still had class with junior high exams, he was class with and that's like that's not an issue on your part, it's more of an issue on really pays attention to the training because everybody goes, it's not gonna happen, it's gonna go. So is there any other text messages for like allocate that goes over here for procedure?
Yeah, that is, so the bomb threat is, in our own after action kind of best practices, and that's where shelter in place. Also, on a bomb threat, so that happened here too. People were going and looking for shelter, right? With shelter in place in the state as well. And right now, the new emergency texts should have it. It'll say go to alert.upenn.edu, and alert.upenn.edu has become kind of a definitive source where someone, once that first text might go out, the university has somebody that's pretty much, that'll be on that website pretty quickly, give more information, and it also has the same what to do guide on the website as on the website as well. It's all the same information, we leave it all together. So the new kind of emergency alerting system in place does have a lot more, I think, guidance in it too, as well, a little more specific instruction, and it always says now, there should be a link now, go to upenn.edu, alert.upenn.edu for more information, and that's where you have an expanded description of what's happening, or specific campus by campus, what's going on. That's good feedback, definitely in the training, and trying to push it out even more to work out to our website.
We have time for one more question, Sam.
It's nice now. Are you guys involved in the maintenance of the related telephones that we have?
Yeah, we're not in the boom phones. Just other than the coordination aspect, trying to make sure people know about the resource and measures.
Sam, you go last year. That's
Okay. One question with the comment. So it's good that they're coming out in different ways, like using all social media and everything. But the last day that we had a late opening, I know I checked the website, and the website said if there's a late opening, you'll get an email. So I checked my email, and I didn't have an email, so I came here. And I found out later that the emails went out late, and the text messages went out in time, but I wasn't signed up for text messages. So I did what the website said, and I still ended up here on the day when the school was closed. Is there a way of modernizing? I don't know if it's because the listserv has to go through every game, and the listservs are slower than social media posts, but I don't know if there's a way of modernizing that so that they go out immediately. And my question is, will you implement like the run, hide, fight training in orientation? Because that's really good training, but if you don't get it at orientation and an incident happens before you've seen the logo and gotten on board with it, it could be too late.
So that's like exactly the kind of feedback that we kind of need and want to do. What is the most effective way to communicate this information? Where should we be reaching it? Is it like FYE versus orientation versus just sending links online? So we are working on getting the presence into orientation and kind of jointly. The TD right now, teachers run that fight, take the class or whatever, but definitely getting into orientation is what we're trying to do. And that's good to know that is probably one of the most effective ways to communicate for students get here. On the emergency alerting system, so we don't actually own the decision to close. Sometimes I wish maybe I did, but but the new system should much more upgraded pretty quickly system. I would also definitely recommend getting signed up for text messages. Text messages is definitely the best way to get the alert notifications. There was a glitch on our third-party company on email, I believe, on one of the other closings, which is why those for some reason got delayed. We found out from the company that they had a patch that they updated something wrong. So that should be fixed. It shouldn't happen again. But I definitely recommend anybody sign. Make sure your phone is signed up for the emergency alert text messages, because it is definitely the best way to do it.
All right. That's the whole time. Thank you. All right.
No good Blaze Pizza.
All right. Would anyone else like to be recognized for public comment? All right. Seeing now, we're now going to take attendance because I have the attendance sheet in front of me. Convoy, Kugler, Rana, Dinkaloo, Lechka, Gopal, Bird, Rosello, Conrad, Alverde,
Here.
Johnny.
Here. I'll be gone soon.
Okay. Riff, Gomi, Mumpa, Harry, Stern, Zabrowski, Ayima, Azimi, Nahar, Valar, Dereer, Ali, Burr, Carr, Russo,
Here.
Chow, Canado, Goebel, talk to George, Harris, Kennedy, Kundu, Langer, Lanza, Lavoy, Lemoyne, Michael, Murray, Norris, Oj, Puglisi, Sponzo, Sullivan, Serwitz, Wang. Alright, we'll now move into the approval of the minutes from March 9th. I'm sorry I forgot to send them out with the Google Doc, but I did send it while Blaze was speaking, so take a quick look at it right now. We have a motion to approve the minutes. March 9th. Sponzo. Are you absent on the 9th? Lloyd. Langer will motion. Is there a second? Yes, Lavoy. Lavoy was definitely here. We got some double L on the minutes. Are there any questions regarding these minutes?
Point of information, did everyone know if they were here or not? Make sure everyone knows.
This was the casual Senate. Sorry, it's the casual Senate that we had in the SOC. If you all remember that day. So if you were at that special Senate when we were wearing jeans, then you were there. You don't remember wearing jeans and being in Senate? You weren't there. Would anyone like to be recognized for debate regarding these minutes? Alright, seeing none, we'll move into a vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes from March 9th, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Risen high? 2, 4, 6 abstentions. And passes. Approved. I will now move into new business and act concerning the rights of student government representatives in disciplinary hearings. Senator Canado.
An act concerning the rights of student government representatives in disciplinary hearings, whereas the undergraduate student government has outlined procedure what requires further standards and provisions for parties to be fairly represented in judiciary facilitated hearings, disciplinary meetings, impeachment trials, etc. Whereas such standards and provisions should not be incorporated into a single process, such as the impeachment trials, but as part of student government representatives' rights and protections through any hearings facilitated by the organization. Therefore, be it resolved, the undergraduate student government adds the following in regards to its bylaws. Bylaw 24, Member Protections and regards to disciplinary hearings. 1. Presentation of evidence and testimony, as well as questioning the responding student and witnesses at all disciplinary hearings in the organization shall be conducted in a manner that is courteous to all participants, that is devoid of intimidation and harassment, and that limits discussion, including witness testimony, to information relevant to the facts and issues of the case. 1A. The chair of any disciplinary hearing or procedure has the duty to ensure that participants in the hearing act with courtesy and civility and avoid any intimidation or harassment. 1B. Any participant in a hearing may object in instances where they can argue the chair is not fulfilling this responsibility. 2. Both the responding and the reporting parties are provided the right to have a person of their choice accompany them throughout the investigative and adjudicative process. This individual may assist either party during judicial procedures, provide advice and counsel, but may not speak on behalf of or otherwise represent the party during judicial procedures or disciplinary hearings. 2A. The Senate, with the guidance of the judiciary, shall have the power to enact bylaws establishing policies and guidelines specifying the nature of the advisor's role. 3. In all disciplinary hearings, the responding party is provided the right to cross-examine witnesses against them. 3A. Senate, with the guidance of the judiciary, shall have the power to specify in its bylaws limited types of evidence that shall be considered admissible without cross-examination. In all other cases, evidence provided by any witness who is unwilling or unable to be cross-examined will be disregarded. 3B. Types of evidence that shall be considered admissible without cross-examination include official records, reports, or data compilations by University of Connecticut offices, other educational institutions or public agencies, final, factual, or legal rulings in any civil or criminal court, medical or related records in official clinic, hospital, or office files, or regularly compiled business or financial records. 4. The Senate, with the guidance of the judiciary or other presiding party in a hearing, shall only have the power to adopt or suspend the rules of procedure to govern its own actions, provided that a 2/4 majority of those present and voting agree, and that the chair specify exactly what will be considered while the rules are suspended. 5. The judiciary may form subcommittees as needed to make recommendations for further member protections or appropriate sanctions in hearings at a general level or in the case of specific hearings. Subcommittees will attempt to reach a consensus but may offer as many minority reports as necessary to reflect the view of their members. The Senate may use the recommendation of a subcommittee for the purpose of forming new bylaws. 6. Any disciplinary rulings or sanctions, including but not limited to those presented in impeachment or elections violations hearings, shall be available for all members of the organization on the following basis. 1. Demonstration of significant procedural error. 2. The availability of compelling new evidence. 3. Demonstration of bias on part of a member or any justice involved in the case. 4. Misconduct on the part of a justice or participating party. Or 5. Demonstration that any rights of the responding student enumerated in the organization's bylaws or constitution have been violated. 7. Both the reporting party and the responding student are expected to cooperate fully with an investigation of the facts of the case and with the adjudicative process. Similarly, all parties with knowledge of facts pertaining to a case of alleged student misconduct are expected to cooperate fully with the investigation of the facts of the case and must appear, if requested, at judiciary facilitated or other disciplinary hearings. In addition, all parties are expected to be respectful of the confidential nature of any knowledge or information they may have about a judicial case or the parties involved. No person shall be required to engage in self-incrimination as part of any judicial proceeding. 8. The judiciary shall have the primary responsibility to communicate, if necessary, with relevant university offices to confirm or refute information supplied by a student or to inform offices of determined sanctions. 9. No case or hearings presenting charges against a member of the organization shall be held until the judiciary determines that there is sufficient evidence for the allegations to be true beyond reasonable doubt. 10. All protections listed herein for members of the organization shall also apply to prospective members of the organization in the event of violation allegations in an elections period. 11. Other than in cases involving alleged sexual assault, dating, domestic violence, sexual harassment, stalking, hate crime, or physical assault, there is a standard statute of limitations for allegations of misconduct of no more than 6 months after the alleged misconduct or the date of its reasonable discovery. If compelling new evidence becomes available, the judiciary retains the ultimate authority to dismiss or allow a case. These are based mostly, not entirely word for word, some of it's obviously paraphrasing and just copy and pasted into a piece of legislation, but from the Community Standards Hearing Policy from Stanford University, which you can kind of look up and compare to this at any time if you have questions on where it comes from, but I'm also available to answer questions.
Do I see a motion? Motion by Ali. Is there a second? Second by Carr. Would anyone like to be recognized for questions? Yes, Chairperson Burr.
Can you explain the justification or the reason why part 2 is needed? And can the,
George.
scroll up?
Yeah, sure. So this is part of kind of the disciplinary hearing that I discovered when I was doing more research on how do we have hearings that allow people to have others be there with them and kind of help them without having it become someone else speaking on their behalf. I think really all of these things apply in different contexts depending on different disciplinary hearings and different situations that it might involve, but I can definitely see why having someone who's there to act as a personal counsel would be beneficial, and why limiting that person to only being able to provide personal counsel and not speak on that person's behalf is a beneficial policy for both parties that would be involved.
Why is that?
I mean, that was why, so that someone can have a personal counsel there, but also that the other person doesn't have to respond to information and allegations being presented by someone other than the person presenting the case.
Right. Senator LaVoy.
My question was regarding.
Louder.
Alright, just come on.
Can we dim the lights a little so I can see that? Right?
I got you.
Dim the lights.
I got you.
Yes.
I got
My two jobs. I'm sorry.
So my question is, you talk about disregarding statements that can't be cross-examined. My question was in 3B then you said that reports would be accepted. So if someone was able to make the meeting that they had something important that they had to say, would they be able to offer it in a report? They could debate the validity of said report?
I guess someone presenting a question such as yours in the instance of a disciplinary hearing is something that would be answered by the judiciary at the time. My interpretation of the policy as I'm presenting it is that it says official records, reports, or data compilations by university connected offices. So I would assume that would have to be some kind of official record or official report, that a written testimony, that there's a difference between a written testimony and a report, and that the judiciary would be able to make that clear.
Okay, so you are saying that in certain cases, written testimonies would be accepted at an impeachment?
I'm saying that I think there's a difference between a written testimony and an official report.
Okay.
That a written testimony would have to be able to be cross-examined, yes.
So if
Versus
someone's,
presenting the, yes.
okay, so you're saying the person would have to be here, a written testimony not accepted?
Correct.
Anyone else like to be recognized for questions? Senator Surowitz.
Senator Taekwondo, I'm wondering, same portion, 3B, can't cross-examine certain records. What's the reason for not being able to cross-examine certain records? Because it seems to me like you might have a record, and it might be an official record, but there might be a legitimate reason for you to cross-examine it and say why that does not apply, or why that official record, although it is official, is not a good official record, or something like that.
Sure. So if you look at 3A, it says Senate, with the guidance of the judiciary, shall have the power to specify as follows limited types of evidence that shall be considered admissible without cross-examination. In all other cases, evidence provided by any witness who is unwilling or unable to be cross-examined will be disregarded. So if there's suspected bias or suspected anything that a report isn't going to act as anything other than, the other kinds of things that fall under this evidence you see in 3B, hospital files, official clinic or office files, regularly compiled business or financial records. I think that section kind of sets the standard there, and that the Senate and the judiciary would be able to discern those kinds of things from things that wouldn't necessarily fall into that scope and purpose, and would be able to cross-examine anything if, a majority or there's a special rules, or we want to consider something as not an official report, that's totally fine. And I'm open to amendments on this kind of thing anyways, if anybody thinks wording is an issue in any of this.
Senator Murray.
Sure. For section 1B, it says that if someone's uncomfortable with how something has been ruled, they can object. What would happen once objection? Would it have to be voted on, ruled, or like sustained by the chair, or just what exactly happens once you object?
So there can be an objection. Obviously, the chair presides over the meeting, and will make a decision. And if there needs to be an appeal of the chair's decision within the presiding body, then they can do that. There's also, if that proceeds without being changed or questioned or revised in that moment or recognized, as you were saying, then there's also that would constitute something such as, if you look at Section 6, demonstration of bias on the part of a member of any justice involved in the case, or if it's someone who's not acting as a justice, you can say misconduct. It can fall under 4 there, which is misconduct on the part of a justice or participating party. So then that, if not recognizing something, as you said, was an issue in a case, then that not being recognized could be substance for an appeal. If that makes sense. I know it's kind of roundabout.
Thank you, Senator Murray. Would anyone else have a question? All right, Chairperson Byrd.
Back to 3B. Does that mean a person could be cross-examined on the relevance of a report presented?
So someone, or
If a party submits a report and the judiciary finds it acceptable, a tactic that can be used by the other party can be to question the validity, try to convince the judiciary in cross-examination about the relevance and validity of the report or medical record or whatever itself. Is that not going to be allowed? So, like for example, if you had an official report from the Department of whatever, from the University of Connecticut, there's no representative there to be cross-examined, can the person submitting it, the party itself, be cross-examined on its relevance and validity as a means to convince the judiciary to basically not consider it?
the provision that's in there about evidence that can be submitted without cross-examination, I think, is protection from having every piece of evidence that you file being, randomly subject to cross-examination and a lengthy process to get something removed. That really should be just something that shouldn't be subject to cross-examination. I think as trying to be laid out in this legislation, I'm open to changes in wording if we think that certain reports wouldn't fall into that, is just to have a standard for what we're going to cross-examine and what we don't need to, like official reports and things like that. I think if someone is writing something and saying it's a report that's really testimony, then that's something that the judiciary and the Senate, when we're in the case, says, this is testimony, not an official report. We need to be able to cross-examine this, and that we would be able to do that.
Can I ask another question?
Yeah.
To part 6, can you please explain it? I guess I just don't get it. Can you scroll down a little?
I think, I was reading through this, and I think I edited part of the wording in this and took out the most important part. So this is supposed to be about appeals. So they'll be subject to appeals. All the disciplinary rules or sanctions should be subject to appeals, including but not limited to those presented in impeachment, election violations, hearings. Those shall be available to all members of the organization to appeal on a following basis. So those would be, as in certain disciplinary hearing procedures, there are different. In the bylaws, it says one thing about what's subject for appeal in judiciary procedure, elections violations procedure says something different. I'm not sure if our impeachment procedure specified at all. So this was an attempt to.
I think I'm more concerned with the submit. I don't think it makes.
The sentence, I need to revise the sentence. Yes. Yeah.
All right, Senator LaVoy.
I yield my time.
Would anyone else like to be recognized for a question?
I apologize for that.
Yes, there is Speaker Lilly.
So, the ninth clause in there, does that mean that the judiciary is deciding before the Senate during the hearing that a person is represented?
That wasn't the intention, but I can see how that could be read like that, and I'm open to revising it. The point of that is really to say that there is evidence to suggest that the allegations could be true beyond reasonable doubt. So we have something so that the judiciary can't present the case until we know we have evidence that could be presented to substantiate these allegations. Does that make sense? Not necessarily that you can't bring the case forward unless you know beyond reasonable doubt the person is guilty. Yeah, absolutely. I see how that's sorry.
Murray.
For section 11, how did you determine which of these offenses would be and would not be subject to statute of limitations? And also, how did you arrive at a statute of limitations for the length of 6 months in particular?
Sure, give me just 1 second. Section 11?
I think so.
So me trying to, so I think as the student government, we are kind of seeing, I think in terms of this year, when you look at this year versus last year, and maybe the year before I wasn't here then, that impeachment and very serious disciplinary hearings that have serious consequences for the organization in certain respects come along pretty rarely. So I think when they do come up, because these things are always different circumstances, different people, different climates in the organization, that there's a lot of questions that come up that aren't specified in the documents. So my purpose was not to address any specific thing, but to say that if there's ever a question of, well, something happened, we only learned about it now, but maybe this happened last year, or this happened last semester, can we still do something about it? And having that called into question by both parties, I thought it would be more beneficial for us to put something here now so that we have something. And if someone thinks that a different time is better, or if there's other questions, or there are other allegations that should be involved in it, or looking at anything that you'd like, I put those in because I thought that's what I could think of as things that we really should be able to talk about and act on, other than statute of limitations. But I don't want someone to, I don't know. Think of an example. Maybe talk about elections in the office one time in the fall, the year before, and have someone try and bring it up in the election 8 months later, or 6 months later, within 6 months later, or something like that. That seems like a basic protection for me, but if someone thinks that's inappropriate or wants to change that anyway, I'm open to all of that.
Any other questions? Yes, Chairperson Bird.
In section 2B, whatever we call it, section 2, about the being a company. Is it possible, since it's not specified, that it has to be a student, that the student could bring hypothetically like an actual attorney? Is that okay with you?
I mean, give me 1 second. So let's read it, actually, for everyone. Both the responding and the reporting parties are provided the right to have a person of their choice accompany them throughout the investigative and adjudicative process. This individual may assist either party during judicial procedures, provide advice and counsel, and may not speak on behalf of or otherwise represent the party during judicial procedures or disciplinary hearings. And then attached to that is that the Senate and the guidance of the judiciary shall have the power to enact bylaws establishing policies and guidelines specifying the nature of the advisor's role.
So is it concerning to you that hypothetically someone of both could hire a very good lawyer as an assistant during a case, which might lead to an unfair outcome?
Sure. I would hope that someone hiring a lawyer wouldn't make a more unfair outcome, because I would hope that if someone was certified by the bar, that they would be wary of.
It's defending a disadvantage, because in the U.S. criminal system, if someone's a lawyer, we have a lawyer, and that's not how that's works.
Sure. So we can go to change that. I certainly didn't write it with the intention that every person would show up with a lawyer, but I see that. I know.
It's a potential option.
Sure. So we can change that if you'd like.
I have a question.
I will let Sponzo go first, and then you go.
Yeah, this is great. So I totally see the possibility of that happening. I don't think it's likely to happen, but I think it wouldn't hurt to put it in a competitive thing or something to account for that. But am I wrong in saying that the purpose of being able to bring someone with you is like an emotional support almost, or just like a
I think that's kind of the same thing that David's getting at, is that there's kind of a wide range of what this person can be, and that we want to make sure that it's sound all the way around. So it could be someone for some kind of emotional support. It could be a lawyer.
But this
It's
is solely for like
but-
USG student government purposes, correct? So to bring in a lawyer like for a USG would be, but I see.
I don't want to dismiss that as a possibility.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
So, yeah, it says to provide advice and counsel. It also says the Senate can enact bylaws establishing policies and guidelines specifying the nature of that role. So, whatever you guys are thinking in terms of that, or, it's totally up there. I considered it more, not necessarily an emotional support thing, but personal counsel, someone, yeah.
Yes, Chairman Severity may follow up.
Is it also possible, based on the wording of that someone of high status in USG, for example, the president or chief justice, if they cannot sit on the disciplinary council, could represent that other person, thus biasing the process? So, for example, if the president was friends with one of the parties, they could represent or be that council's, or be the counsel to that party, thus kind of adding weight to their.
Well, to be fair, I think that's kind of the procedure that we already have by having someone from the exec represent the plaintiff in the impeachment trial cases. But if that's something we're looking to avoid, we can put, to be that the advisor of any party may not be a member of the organization's exec board or something like that.
And that wouldn't apply to impeachment, because that person serving as the representative of the organization isn't the advisor to that party, they are the party. Correct?
Can we actually yield that to the chair, because then I would also have that question and would wonder what the role of the individual filer would be in the impeachment
So
trial.
to make it clear, there's a distinction between being the party and being the advisor. I'm concerned that a party might use, for example, the president as an advisor, which is different than if the party itself was the president, because it's an impeachment. So for example, in a case of two, let's say, an elections case, two parties in an election have a case. One party could hypothetically have the president be there, and the current president be their advisor, which is not the same as the president representing the USG in impeachment, because that the president would be the party, not the advisor.
Yes. So, would a addition of, like, say, to be the advising party
The advisor
cannot be a member of the current
something
executive?
talk about it.
Wait.
So, are you using the definition of party here that was set up in the earlier bylaw? Because from the way I'm reading it, this definition of party is different.
I can't pause that.
The question is whether the definition of party in this legislation is different than the definition of party in the impeachment procedures or any other definitions of party in the bylaws, which I am not informed on all the forms of party as it appears in our documents, so we would have to take a look at that. I imagine there's going to be a 5-minute recess in debate to get all these changes compiled quickly. So I'll write that down.
Boy.
If anyone wants to look that up while we're getting ready to do that, the definition of party in our any documents.
Savoy yields. Would anyone else like to be recognized for questions? All right, seeing none, we'll move into debate.
Can I motion for a 5-minute recess?
I think 5 minutes is enough.
And each one's got to be set.
Yeah.
You can't have all these suggestions.
Yeah, they're good.
Do we need a recess? Okay, so.
Yes.
So 5 minutes and then
Yeah, we'll do the
2
one.
minutes and then.
All right, I'm gonna by unanimous consent, I'm gonna give them 10 minutes to line up the different amendments that they're gonna try, so we can go through them. Is anyone dissenting?
Just point of personal privilege. Wouldn't it make sense, since this is 2 questions, to actually talk about the amendments before lining out all the items?
Sure, so in my motion to table for 10 minutes, I'm going to say that we're going to motion to table so that we can address section 2, and anyone is free to come over and join and have a discussion on how we're going to write these amendments if you'd like. So section 2, I believe we're going to visit during the recess to address whether the responding reporting parties in their right to have a person of their choice accompany them through the investigative or adjudicative process should have the right for that person to be a member of the executive board, which we're saying no, that shouldn't be a member of the organization's exec board. I'm not sure if we're going to include whether or not a certified attorney falls under those definitions or not, but possibly. And then in 2B, yeah, that's where we're going to specify that. We're also going to double check over the definition of a party and see if the way that applies to responding or presenting parties and other parties drives with the definition in our bylaws and impeachment procedures. We also have to fix the wording on section 6. I apologize, I edited that before and took out the part where it mentions that the basis outlined in that section are the basis, should be the basis for appeal. And then in section 9, we're going to revise that to be a little more clear that it has to do with there being a requirement for sufficient evidence to present allegations, not necessarily to prove allegations beyond reasonable doubt. And we'll look at also 3B, which is the types of evidence that's going to be admissible without cross-examination and whether or not reports should take into question the person writing the reports and the nature of those reports, as well as section 11 to determine if there should be a different time standard for standard of evidence, or statute of limitations, and if there is a statute of limitations, what types of cases and allegations would fall outside of that. So motion to table for 10 minutes to discuss all of that.
Is there a second? Yes, Chairperson Byrd. All those in favor of a 10-minute recess that will end promptly at 7:55? Please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? So ordered. Recess. Scooters down. Yeah, you should.
Are you serious? Are you kidding me? Stop, you're gonna make me cry.
Alright, I'm gonna get you guys back on this. Okay? So we are back in session, and I would like to entertain a motion for 5 more minutes of recess. And a motion by Murray, and a second by Langer. All those in favor of 5 more minutes of recess, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? You don't get to vote, Steve. Any abstentions? And recess, 5 more minutes. Alright, I will call back into order at 8:05 and we will resume debate on Senator Cagnotta's bill. Yes, Senator Cagnotta.
On behalf of myself,
You can move the mic towards your mouth.
on behalf of myself, Dan Bird, Ben Murray, Samuel Sherwitz, and Dustin LeBoy, I'd like to submit the following amendments.
Wait, just let George.
Section 2.
Are we grouping these?
Yes.
Okay.
We submit. Okay, so this reads, and I'm going to indicate where I'm making an amendment. Both the responding and the reporting parties are provided the right to have the person of their choice accompany them throughout the investigative and adjudicative process. This individual may assist either party during judicial procedures and provide evidence and counsel, period. This individual may assist either party during judicial procedures and provide advice and counsel. So then we're deleting but and saying the advisor may, then we're deleting not. So this is the advisor may speak on behalf of or otherwise represent the party during judicial procedures or disciplinary hearings. But we're putting a comma on that. and saying, judicial procedures or disciplinary hearings in all stages of hearings other than cross-examination. So to clarify on that, you can have your advisor speak on your behalf, but if your testimony or evidence that you presented is being cross-examination and they're saying, well, where were you when this happened? Your advisor can't say, well, so-and-so was there. You have to answer those questions. So then we're adding below 2A, 2B, which is to say, the advisor cannot be a member of the organization, capital O, organization's executive committee or judiciary, and must be an undergraduate student. So no lawyers, unless you're like Doogie Howser and you went to law school at age 14. Take advantage of that, people, if that happens. We're then striking section 3B. So no evidence will be submitted that is completely impervious to cross-examination. Stuff doesn't have to be cross-examined if you're like, yeah, that's an official record, I don't want to cross-examine that, but nothing is absolutely protected. In case of there's in case of bias or whatever. Section 6, we're just adding something at the end of the sentence here that gives it like subject or a verb. All disciplinary rulings or sanctions, including but not limited to those presented in impeachment or elections violations here, shall be available for all members of the organization. We're adding to appeal on the following basis, and those are the bases for appeal, and that, as a bylaw, applies overarchingly to elections procedure. Bases? Maybe it's bases.
It is bases.
But it's within, I think I just pronounced it bases, but isn't it bases? I believe so. Unless anyone wants to challenge me on that. If you lose the challenge, you miss your next turn. Is it? Oh. Oh. We're also striking section 9 because we already have procedures for the judiciary to say, if there's not evidence or appropriate reason to bring the case, that they don't have to bring the case to Senate. So we don't need to double down on that in this bylaw. No, okay. And then the last change is in section 11. So we're just adding, other than in cases involving, and we're adding something in here saying, serious offenses including, comma, but not limited to, comma, alleged sexual assault, dating, domestic violence, sexual harassment, stalking, hate crime, physical assault. There is a statute of limitations of 6 months. After the alleged crime or the date of its reasonable discovery, when will we mean? Other than in cases involving serious offenses, comma, including but not limited to, comma. All right, well, we'll use it for the amendment something. Okay. And just to clarify, because there was some question on that, like when we say date of reasonable discovery, we're saying like you can't, submit in a case 6 months later or whatever and say someone told me this 6 months ago, but I just now discovered it. But that would not be reasonable discovery. And those are all of our amendments. So motion.
Is there a second? Yes, Murray. Are there any questions regarding this amendment?
Okay, all of them?
Yes, they're all grouped together unless you want to, during discussion, want to motion this one. Yes?
Why are we striking that section? Is the previous number 9, no cases or hearings concerning charges against whoever?
So, one, the wording on it was weird, so we were going to revise it, right? So it says, shall be held until the judiciary determines that there is sufficient evidence for the allegations to be true beyond a reasonable doubt. And you'd be like, well, that sounds weird, but what is this trying to do? What it's trying to do is make sure that, frivolous cases aren't just getting judiciary without any evidence or witnesses that can provide testimony or something like that in that hearing, but that's really already a standard for our judiciary in their procedures and governing documents. So we figured, why not mince language between two different sections? Yeah.
Would anyone else like to be recognized for questions? Yes, Deputy Speaker Meyer.
Your amendment to number 6, does this also mean that decisions will be Senate in impeachment process?
In instances, all disciplinary rulings or sanctions, including, but not limited to those presented in impeachment or election violations, so yes, but only on these following bases. So that would be demonstration of procedural error, new evidence, bias on the part of any member of any justice involved in the case, misconduct on a justice or a participating party, or demonstration that any rights of the responding student in a way that violates the Constitution are violated. Yeah.
Yes.
So does this, who hears this appeal?
Depends on which case it is.
Provides all disciplinary rules and sanctions.
Oh, the removal trial, yeah.
Well, that would be the trial. So first you have the impeachment hearing, then
So the question is how a charge decided on by the Senate would be appealed, and if it would be appealed directly to the Senate, but I don't think that it would be because the Senate is the acting jury in impeachment hearings and Senate facilitated or Senate impeachment and disciplinary hearings involving the Senate. But I still believe it's overseen by the judiciary, so I would assume that the judiciary would hear that appeal and deal with it accordingly with their appeal procedures as they exist currently. This doesn't attempt to change their appeal procedures, but just to expand the bases for filing an appeal.
Chief Justice Whitley has yours.
This bylaw provides the right for members of the organizations to have an appeal facilitated if one of these bases is demonstratable in the case. So anyone has the right to file an appeal in any instance, but this is to say that these are the reasons why someone should be able to get an appeal. Like in the elections procedure, it says that someone can file an appeal or an appeal will be approved on the basis of new evidence being available. This is to say that like someone can have an appeal of a disciplinary ruling based on not just new evidence, but if there's demonstration of procedural error, etc. As listed in this section. Yeah, in the elections procedure. Yeah. I mean, I would hope that if someone filed for an appeal and listed these things, that the judiciary would respond to that, and if these things did in fact exist under the considerations of the judiciary, that they would move forward with an appeal. I mean, I can't guarantee someone the right to appeal if the judiciary is not, if the judiciary gets one of these requests for an appeal and can determine that it's not an actual basis at play in a situation or scenario, then no, there would be an appeal, I assume. But this is to say that any member subject to disciplinary rulings has the ability to appeal on these bases.
So they have the ability to appeal?
Yes. It should, so that when the judiciary is saying, well, this person appealed should we hear their appeal? They're not saying, well, we can only hear the appeal if there's new evidence. They're saying, well, we can hear the appeal if there's these things. And the person can argue for an appeal without just having to have new evidence. They can also argue for an appeal by saying, these governing documents say I can ask for an appeal because I believe this happened and this is one of the bases for appeal.
So they are requesting.
Sure, yes. It should also be their right to have an appeal if one of these things happen.
All right, well,
That's the point of the legislation.
The wording is requesting an appeal. Senator Kingana is making the point that if they're bringing forward new information, that they should be able to achieve that in hearing, but that's not something that we can make a decision on right now, unless you want to make it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not trying to guarantee that anytime someone asks for an appeal, they get an appeal. But this section of the legislation is to say that someone can argue for an appeal, and the judiciary should approve a request for an appeal if they can demonstrate that that would fall within one of these bases for requesting an appeal. Right? Does that make sense to everyone?
No, yeah, I know, but what you're saying right now is kind of like an opinion of they should do it, and right now we're just trying to make the wording that if new evidence.
The whole thing that this legislation is written to address is the rights of student government representatives in disciplinary hearings. So it's to say that if someone can demonstrate that there was a significant procedural error, that there is new evidence available, or that there was bias, things like that are listed here, that they can use those as basis to file for appeal. That should be, instead of someone saying, well, I know that the entire thing was biased and that there was misconduct from a justice and that your rights were violated, but you don't have new evidence, so we can't hear an appeal. That's what I'm trying to say. There are other bases for an appeal that someone should have the right to argue for. That's what this legislation wants to expand. Is the right of
and so
student government representatives to request.
He's saying that these are the
I
okay.
agree with you 100%. I'm just saying there's a big difference between they are guaranteed an appeal and they are allowed to request an appeal.
Sure. So what I would say then is these are protections for if these things happened. So if someone argues that one of these things happened and it didn't actually happen, or it's not true, they don't have any evidence to suggest that one of these things happened, then there's no basis for the appeal, right?
So you're saying that one of these 5 things did happen. He has the evidence. He or she has the evidence to prove it, then they should be given an appeal. Isn't that saying that? Yeah.
So, based on what it says, initially it would go to the judiciary to decide whether or not it fits one of those 5 provisions, and then they would hear the appeal if it did.
Yes, I'm not sure I understand how you phrased it, but I'm saying, yes, if someone can argue that one of these things happened, and it's not a completely baseless argument that one of these things happened, then that's in our governing document. Someone should refer to it and say, our governing documents say this, so I request a repeal. And the judiciary should say, oh, this is in our governing documents. Yeah, we should prove that. And that's how the process would work. But if someone's trying to abuse that and had a fair hearing and was charged correctly, and then says, well, I think that so-and-so was biased, and they can't present anything to say that that person was biased to the judiciary, then the judiciary does not have to present an appeal to that person on those grounds. Right? I mean, isn't that the way that the judiciary currently?
Yeah, no, I know it all makes sense and it's good and, I'm a great Chief Justice.
That's just.
5 years from now, there will be a terrible Chief Justice who decides not to do any of this stuff, and I want to make sure it's written there explicitly. That's the hope.
Yes, this shall be available for all members of the organization to appeal on the following basis. So, if something happens in accordance with any of those bases listed in that section, according to the rights of the student representative in our organization, they should be able to appeal that punishment or ruling. That's all that says.
I think we're part of the deciding that's their evidence.
All right,
All appeals are handled by the judiciary.
So they're talking about
Well, you request, file for, you don't it's taking like Kaylee Gonzo says, taking a big gray area and making it a smaller gray area. You're welcome to revise this right now if you want to, or if people are kind of thinking about it and want to revise it later, you can also do that as well. But, I don't know. something else in the voting language that says that?
No, there's,
It would be like,
I mean,
it,
yeah, we're gonna be.
it would be like, say the Constitution said we had to have 5 pineapples, and I said, well, that doesn't say at least, or at most. So that kind of thing.
All right, so would anyone else like to be recognized for debate? Yes, Chairperson Burke.
I don't know if Bruce is misunderstanding, but we thought that there would also be 3 and 3A would also be struck just because they're like closely referenced to 3B, which we already struck.
Yes,
Like,
3A, yeah.
3, what
Or
are
3.
3? If you go to the little one.
Yeah, 3 would stay, though, right?
I don't know.
3 is just that all.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. But 3A.
3A, yeah, we should strike 3A.
Five unanimous?
Yeah, this is part of our original.
Yes.
Would anyone else like to be recognized for debate? Yes.
I actually think this is like great thing about this forum, so thank you.
Awesome. Anyone else like to be recognized for debate? Yes, Deputy Speaker Wang. I mean, not exactly what you said that.
Well, I was just going to ask if people would be open to section 6 that specifies that the judiciary handles the appeals, because as it is right now, I was thinking that's okay. Because technically the deciding party in the trial is the Senate and not the judiciary. Is it though? Is it? Well, Senate leadership presides, and the Senate is the jury.
Yeah, at that point, the judiciary hands it over to the Senate to decide.
So the judiciary does not preside over
They're just making sure constitutionally we're following the rules for the hearing.
So I would say that judiciary would be in all instances, and if people we're technically the Senate deciding party, someone files an appeal to judiciary.
As the judiciary branch, they would.
Then Senate presides over that.
Okay. Yeah.
So, or if that's the case with Senator, you look into explicitly specifying that in this document, just to avoid confusion in the future when,
We're all gone.
Yeah.
You do 6A. If you want, and just.
Should that be in this bylaw, or should that be in the procedures of?
That should be, because we can just say that all, yeah, so we can put that as all hearings, all appeals are granted by the judiciary. And that's how it reads right now, so it's just there. Just to clarify that, it goes to this. I don't think it's necessary. I think the judiciary. No, I think right now it states that all appeals are through the judiciary. No, not in this, but in the thing is once this is included, the umbrella of the judiciary's ability to hear appeals incorporates this as well, as this is the bylaws. So I don't think it's necessary. Yes. Would anyone else like to be recognized for debate? Yes, Senator Kagata.
Thanks. So I just want to say before we move into the vote on this, just why I wrote something up like this. I know we were kind of like charging through, making sure we had the procedures in place for impeachment. Everyone wants to make sure that that procedure runs smoothly. But I just want us to all think of each other in this organization as also students, and making sure that we're representing students even when we are those students, and making sure that there are protections for them in these disciplinary hearings, which can, if a newspaper article is written about what someone did in a disciplinary hearing and that's not fair and pictures them in a bad way, could really affect their job prospects and future career. And so I think we've got to make sure that when we're approving things like ways to punish other members or to hold other members of our organization accountable, that we also make sure that we look at that other side. These are rooms that I wanted to make the impeachment process, but decided to do as a bylaw for all of our disciplinary hearings. So I hope you'll vote yes for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Kagata. Would anyone else like to be recognized for debate? Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. All those in favor of approving an act concerning the rights of student government representatives and disciplinary hearings, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? And clearly passes.
No, we didn't pass this.
Oh, we didn't pass this. Sorry, that was the one. I am so sorry. My apologies. That was the amendment that we just passed. No, I do beg that. Yay, the amendment! Okay, we'll now move back into discussion regarding the overall bill as it reads. If George clicks accept, I'll give you some time to read it over. It's about a 2-page document now. We eliminated some of the pages. Alright, would anyone like to debate regarding this amendment? This legislation. Yeah, as you can tell from my coughing, I'm not in a good state. Okay, we'll move into a vote. All those in favor of approving an act concerning the rights of student government representatives in disciplinary hearings, this time for real, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Any abstention? And now it passes. Alright, we'll continue into new business and a statement of position regarding Bill Cosby's honorary degree from the University of Connecticut, sponsoring or authoring senators, please.
Honey, can I get up there with you? We're going.
We'll sell it.
She wrote that. She made that clear.
Okay, let us read.
A statement of position regarding Bill Cosby's honorary degree from the University of Connecticut. Whereas the undergraduate student government is charged with representing the views of the undergraduate student body, whereas Bill Cosby was awarded an honorary degree from the University of Connecticut in 1996 after the commencement address, whereas according to Whereas according to Article 17 of the University of Connecticut laws and bylaws, an honorary degree is awarded only in recognition of extraordinary and lasting distinction. The award to represent the highest intellectual and moral values, it should reflect the very character and quality of the university itself. Whereas Bill Cosby has been publicly accused of sexual assault by over 50 women, whereas in 2006 deposition, Bill Cosby admitted to purchasing senators with the intent of giving them to women. Whereas the actions of Bill Cosby are no reflection of the highest intellectual and moral values or the character and quality of the university itself. Whereas the University of Connecticut must honor its commitment to support survivors of sexual assault and should not retain any association with an individual who has committed such horrific acts. Whereas 8 universities have rescinded Bill Cosby's honorary degrees, whereas according to university spokesman Stephanie Reeds, this issue has been the topic of thoughtful discussion, although UConn has made no decision yet. Whereas the undergraduate student government has called upon the state of Connecticut as well as the university community to support victims of sexual assault and supporting affirmative consent and safe on campus, as well as through passing a statement position against the proposed Safe Campus Act and Fair Campus Act. Therefore, be resolved the undergraduate student government formally calls upon the University of Connecticut to immediately revoke the honorary degree award to Bill Cosby in 1996.
All right, is there a motion? Yes, Bird. Is there a second? Sponzo. Are there any questions regarding this piece of legislation? Yes, Deputy Speaker Wayne. All right, Puglisi.
I just have a question. So, who figured that he had a degree? Who figured it out? You did, and then. Okay.
Good morning.
had a question. So is this statement that he made? Because I really know nothing about the case. Like, did he say that he first said with the intent to give to women, and then he changed his mind and did it, or did he say you know what I mean? Like, did he think about committing a crime? And was he using that to say he didn't do it, or was he saying he?
So what happened is that he faced accusations that he had given the drugs to women, and so he was asked, why did you have these? And he said, he was asked about his intent with them. He said, I bought them with the intent, well, he didn't say this exactly, he was asked and he answered, but he bought them with the intent of giving them to people to have sex with. So he didn't say, I think I didn't do it after that. He just said, this is why I bought them.
Okay.
This isn't a trial of Bill Cosby. This is just that there's a demonstration that he's not, that his actions and he's not at the standard of moral excellence that a honorary degree from UConn would require.
Just a little, I'm on the Wikipedia page right now because I don't know a lot. But December 30th, 2015, Cosby was charged with sexual assault in Pennsylvania, and a warrant for his arrest was issued. He turned himself in, and he's now free on a $1 million bail. So take that as you will. Yes, President Convoy.
Would you guys do a picture, just so that, can we share this with universities, the University Senate, because this has been a huge discussion on them, and they never really took any action from it. A lot of applicants. If we pass it again.
Would anyone else like to be recognized for questions? Anyone want to sit down? We'll now move into the debate portion. Would anyone else like to be recognized for debate? Yes, Parliamentary from DC.
Okay, so I don't know why I'm such a big pile of love today, but I just want to commend Stephen and everybody who worked on this, the whole lot of you up there. I think one, it's amazing that somebody took initiative to find this out and then draft up this piece of legislation, and then the fact that 7 senators and an ex-officio senator got up there and helped this legislation, took on this initiative. So that's what we do. This is what we do. Now,
would anyone else like to be recognized for debate? Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. All those in favor of approving a statement of position regarding Bill Cosby's honorary degree from the University of Connecticut, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? And passes. We'll now move into a statement of position regarding the Scholastic House of Leaders who are African American researchers and scholars. You can do it before or after, as long as you do it before the motion.
Just a second.
That's how that's the official list. So what about that wind, huh? No, yesterday. That's crazy, man. Threw a frisbee and I couldn't even throw 5 feet. It just went backwards. I was like, wow, I guess I'm not a sport. It was not. You should go on a trip. You should go on a trip too.
A statement of position regarding the Scholastic House of Leaders for African American Researchers and Scholars. Whereas the undergraduate student government is charged with advocating for the interests of the undergraduate student body, whereas the Scholastic House of Leaders for African American Researchers and Scholars, and the living learning community will open this fall, whereas the named scholars further undermines the legitimacy of the program and encourages stereotypes about the Black community. Whereas scholars of the program is designed to address retention issues of the Black men at the University of Connecticut. Whereas despite the concerning 54% graduation rate among Black men, scholars will only be open to 43 Black men. Whereas retention programs cannot be made a privilege if we truly wish to address such pervasive issues. Whereas scholars have been advertised as safe space for Black men to connect with shared experience. Whereas the acknowledgement that the other dormitories are unsafe space is one that should be done with university-wide reform rather than learning community. Whereas teaching those who live in scholars that the rest of the university is not safe space can lead to self-isolation and separation from the university community at large. Whereas on March 21st, 2 members of the 8-member Commission on Civil Rights wrote a letter addressed to President Hearst outlining their concerns with scholars, particularly the concern with the loss of meaningful interaction among students of different races that can occur in dormitories. Whereas the University of Connecticut filed an amicus curiae brief that stated, uniformly are committed to the pursuit of in education, we firmly believe that meaningful diversity among their students, including racial diversity, is essential to the unique education missions. Whereas the brief also quotes Supreme Court case of Murder versus Willinger for the proposition that the skills needed in today's increasingly global marketplace can only be developed through exposure to wildly diverse people, cultures, ideas, and viewpoints. And adds that there is extensive evidence showing that meaningful interaction among students of different backgrounds improves the quality of education for all students. Whereas although male undergraduate students will have although all male undergraduate students will have access to the housing application, the language in the title specifically, who are African American, reveals an intent to house Black men and scholars primarily. Whereas this intent was further revealed by since removed language on the university website which stated that applications to students who identify as African American/Black or mixed race will be prioritized. Whereas the university that commits to meaningful diversity has responsibility to cultivate this meaningful interaction between students of different backgrounds. Therefore, be it resolved, the undergraduate student firmly calls upon the University of Connecticut to reconsider the commitment to scholars. Be it further resolved, the undergraduate student firmly calls upon the University of Connecticut to dedicate research funds in order to properly address retention issues for Black men. Be it finally resolved, the undergraduate student supports initiatives in meaningful diversity at a campus-wide level, and university commitment to improve relations between communities of different backgrounds.
Motion by Kignata, second by Wayne. Would anyone have any questions about this piece of legislation?
Yeah, I know I talked to you about it last week regarding it, and I think it was like last time I had a conference with them about it, I asked them about it, and I'm still getting a bit feel for it. While, especially like that, my summer term, especially like in Waterloo, people are saying there are issues with the need for male, even though that is not and then also the exclusion of women under the guise of women's. There's this kind of question that like people that are not Black should be discussing this issue because we're not those Black students. So how can we get judgment on this where we all come out?
So I believe it's a responsibility of us as student representatives to consider all voices on campus. I can understand there is some kind of apprehension as far as like, well, I don't want to speak on behalf of the Black community, but also like 3/4 of the Black senators here on this bill, and also we have connections to this community. I think that overall what this bill is not saying, it's not saying that we don't need any retention bill, we're saying this is not the correct way to do it. And I think that as undergraduate student senators and community chairs and all that should have a discussion is important because we were elected to represent all these students, and we can't say because, I'm not, I can't speak on it. I wouldn't say because I'm not speaking, it's because that pertains to proud and things of that nature. So we can't at the same time, we can't tell you which want you to care more about underrepresented students, but at the same time be like, well, you can't talk about this. I don't think it's productive.
All right, Senator Sponzo.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to add on,
Can you wait to debate?
well,
Can I have it here?
it was just like first.
Yeah. Is that okay?
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
I yield to Senator.
Okay, yeah, I think it's also important to consider, like, the fact that Adia is a woman of color and the sponsors and, like, the author is like, people of color. I mean, I think that we can trust their judgment. I understand what you mean about, you know, like, white people shouldn't be making decisions on behalf of the black community, but I think it's important to consider, like, I think it's coming from a reliable source.
Yeah, my like concern is like I said, I think that he from my coursework, so it's like as someone who's building for those topics, if I'm not made it clear, like majority says this.
All right. This is getting towards debate, so just wait a few minutes. But Global.
I was just wondering if you talk to, like, I'm sure you have probably an African center, like, your responsibility.
Yeah, so Dr. Price, who's the director of the African Culture Center, was actually not informed about this initiative until the grant was already approved. So like that automatically set me off like what the heck is this? But then also she spoke to the Connecticut Reader, I believe, around a month ago and saying that she did not support Scholars House as a member of the community.
Nada.
Would you like agree with the notion that like what this legislation does is more to ask the university to reconsider and do more research to find the best way to retain black students on campus and further than that, and not necessarily just to say that we're absolutely against the program statement that it needs. Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what the language in the first Review result is that we call upon them to reconsider their commitment to, and the second clause will increase reaching funding because obviously the numbers show there is an issue with the teaching acting. We're not going to say it's not an issue, but we want them to reconsider how the approach is being met and how we're deciding to dedicate research and funds towards this issue.
Would anyone else like to be recognized for questions? Yes, Senator Moy.
Moving forward, USG actually lot after we make the statement, if we does pass, that it will create another plan action as far as so I think like so easy because the university is not doing this.
Yeah. And so my like end group would be if this passed, we'll see my girl Irma in the back, we're like, hey, some developments, a problem, that's your next to some services, also a problem. How can we coordinate on a concerted effort within USG to meet with salaries out of the provost office and the other administrators who are involved in this to say how can we do better, how can we address the student needs in a different way.
Have you talked to the chief of the state officer?
Not about this issue specifically.
Maybe like I think not with this one, but like do something.
Yeah, that's certainly an office that we'll be working with. I hope as USG next year, so that's another conversation to have.
With that, yes, Senator Langer.
So you might not know the answer to this, but when you members are they given more permission? Sent letters, or do you know the reason why these members declined?
I know that it had to be voted on by the commission to sit one on behalf of the entire commission. I don't know what the vote was on that. I know that these two had a background with campus activism. They just published on the website to a letter without the entire commission.
So ALC sent on behalf of all the members.
Yeah.
Would anyone else like to be recognized for questions? Yes, Senator Surwitz.
Do you think that is it because you disagree with the creation of this living community specifically for black men, or would you feel the same way about other living communities? Like if there was a proposition for a Hispanic living community or like there currently is a military with veteran living community. So is this specific or do you think in general you'd be opposed to other?
I think that I'm in opposition to a learning community that is based on race alone and not based off of interest. Or like if you're in the military, that's a shared like occupation, there's just certain interests that you have, the grounds to like commonly connect with, and there's reasons behind that. So we have the women in STEM learning community where it's not just like this is the women's learning house, it's the women who are in STEM learning house, and it's a very different conversation, I think. And so I'm against any learning. If it was just like the black men in engineering, because that's an underrepresented group, that's an educational thing, that'd be a complete different conversation. But just saying that just African Americans who are scholars and researchers is a very like vague and obtuse thing to me. I think that that is problematic, and that it has the intent to discriminate in the housing process based off of race. Not discriminate necessarily in a bad connotation, but whenever you're making a distinction based on race, I think there's a problem with that.
I'm going to let Senator Burr speak first.
This is for, from what I'm understanding here, that this is a limited for African American males. They're going based on their origin, not skin color. So if I claim that I'm from South Africa and I have white skin, I can claim I'm African American because I technically came from Africa. So does that mean I can apply myself to this learning community despite the fact that I'm white and not black?
I really wouldn't know. I think that you could. I don't think, because also the university cannot say, oh, you're not black, so you can't live here. They can say that it's supposed to be targeting a specific community, but they couldn't tell you, even if you didn't claim you were African American, if you just said I'm a white guy who wants some housing in the community, they can't say you can't live here. And so it very well could be that white men or men of other ethnicities or races can apply and live there, but the language in the name is who are African American, and so that reveals an intent to target a specific population.
All right, yes, Senator Rhodes.
Do you think that it would, that this living community, if it was, if this does go forward, do you think that it'll be helpful for the men that live in it, or do you think it'll, like, further education and their success rate, do you think it'll improve their chance of success or lessen it?
I think that any program designed for retention has the potential to positively impact the people who live there, but I also think that when you're looking at a number of 46% of the population not being able to graduate, it needs to go much farther than 43 minutes. So look at a class of 600 when they started saying 600 black men were enrolled in a certain year, and 52% of them graduated. The number of 53 is completely arbitrary. It's not based on research in any way. It's something that was based off of how many dads can we get. And so, yes, for the 43 black men who get to live there, that can be cool. For the 44 black kid who doesn't get in, what does that mean in terms of what retention for him is important to the university? I think that we need to look at a student body experience rather than a 43-person experience.
Would anyone else like to be recognized for questions? All right, thank you, Senator. We'll now move into debate. Would anyone like to be recognized for debate? Yes, Senator Surwitz.
So I just would want to say, because I don't know if anyone knows of any other living community, because I have like direct knowledge about the veteran living community. Originally, the veteran living community is going to allow, I think, up to 14 veterans, something like that. So at one point there was 4 veterans in the living community. At one point there was 5. Right now I think there's only 2. So they've contracted and expanded based off of the need, based off of how many students requested to live in that living community. I think that the living community for veterans has been helpful for veterans who lived in it, but because the point is well taken that the veterans self-selected, right, versus being born in one race or another race. So, like for me, I don't know how to vote on this, so I'll probably abstain.
Just kind of in response, just to the first point about the expansion, this, from my knowledge, I can correct me wrong, this is a grant, so this can't expand. Like that number isn't just a grant number, like that's all they can hold based on the money. Because this is different from the fact that it's like an outside grant they got, it's not an econ-based. Is that correct?
Yes. Senator Lee.
So I would just like to address that by saying that I think that the primary concern that I have with this 43 versus number is that retention is something that's necessary. So if a single population is so average for graduates to get the entire program to be retained, that should be something they have to ask for. And so by knowing you're at risk of entering the university, whether or not you know it and whether or not you want to be retained, I as a university has committed myself to diverse experience healthy stays. And if that's something we're going to get, it needs to be the entire university level, and not just one to go there.
Yes, Senator Brewer.
I also wanted to add that there are roughly 570 or so Black men on this campus. And so just keep that in mind when you're thinking about this board. This is one large movement for Black men.
Yes, Senator Bayan Yuma.
I just want to add that this is very, very important because I know the value of being a learning community. I'm currently in Global House, and my experiences here has been very beneficial. And the way I'm not necessarily extremely opposed to this learning community, but for me, it seems like, I mean, rightly so, an active consideration to kind of help the problems that are Black men are facing in college. But at the same time, we really have to consider the fact that a learning community should not just be a place where we put a bunch of Black people or Black men to kind of just stay in school. We have to go beyond that. If we're going to have a learning community like this, we have to really have to hold the people that are organizing this learning community accountable. We have to go beyond just being said and past statements and positions like this. And I really wish this.
Chairperson Conrad.
So, I've tried to talk to a bunch of people that are involved with learning communities in the administration about this, because students that come to me from learning communities have said about a lot of different issues right now involving their movement without any student input. And then one of these issues is, there was no student input on the naming of this learning community, on where it's going to be on campus, what type of program is going to go into this learning community, and if it's about learning about this experience for Black males, or is it about just kind of forcing them all together into this? And so I have a really big problem that when I try to go and advocate for students that come to me saying, we want to be a part of this to make it better, if this is something the university is going to do, and they've been very unresponsive about it, to be honest. So if this is something, so I cannot support the learning community because the students are so upset about it, and they're asking to be a part of the, making it better, this is the university to go on, and they're not letting students have their voice in it, because it could be very supportive, it could be beneficial if there was university-wide programming to go along with it, and really make it something better than what it is right now. And this is one of the many issues learning communities are having right now, and students are not having a voice. It's a really big problem. So aside from this, we should be making sure that not only here, we're taking this and we're making sure the university is hearing this, and the students that are in learning communities, and making sure their voices are heard and their ideas of how they can improve it are being heard, because this is only one step to what we really need to be doing.
I can attest to that. I was in a learning community, so. Senator Lamont.
So at first I was going to talk about extension fields because I don't know exactly where it feels in it, but after we the responses to this, I'm going to vote yes on that right, vote yes to it. Because the way learning community is set up, there's, as far as I can see, there's absolutely no structure and no plan on how to actually keep students, learning how to keep students in a diverse environment. But it's more so just happening with temporary systems to apply. And as far as like with other cultural learners, I've had this thrown at me. There's going to be an LGBT learning community within next year. The primary difference between this and that though is that is very good for safety education, because obviously the education that we get for our community is something there. It's not really not the source. So for us, it's only source being used. But as far as retention goes, there are far better sort of
you feel about certain learning communities or living spaces, I think we can look at that third clause and just kind of honestly look at that name and just be like, that doesn't seem academic. That does not seem to have any value. It doesn't seem to have any type of legitimacy. It really doesn't. Whether the intention of the name was to be more funky, I don't even know what their intention was with that name. To have it be more fun, I don't know. But it's just, I think it's inappropriate for the mission, and I think it kind of just speaks about how this was basically thought about. I think it's very inappropriate for that name alone, and so that makes me question the whole kind of incentive.
Thank you, Parliamentarian Felicity. Would anyone else like to be recognized for debate? Yes, Senator Canado.
Yeah, I originally wasn't going to talk on this, but I kind of just want to add on to Connor's point that, you know, if you've been involved, you've been going to campus protests and things like that, and hearing people talk about that experiences firsthand, the kind of things that people on this campus go through in some instances, that we've seen responses that have been more of gimmicks and symbolic gestures, and even for something that, you know, is a concrete thing like a learning community that we have in other areas, we're just like slapping an interesting name on something and saying we're addressing this problem by really only addressing 43 people in a community where 54% of them are not being properly handled and addressed and retained by our university. So I think it's important that we ask them to reconsider this on the basis that it seems like a gimmick in some ways, put the funky name on something that isn't really addressing the problem in a meaningful way.
Would you like to do, I mean, you can point of
personal privilege.
information.
Point of information, sorry. I just want to know. That's okay. Do you know why they named it? Did they give any reasoning behind that name, or was it just like, this is going to be the name? Like, what does that even mean? If I read it out, it's Scott Alba, character.
Scholastic also leaders from all African American scholars. They decided to make it accurate that way instead of just like little scholars. Everyone was like lowercase, which was like substitute.
And the square for African American, the little c, because there's the actual C in it.
So I think that is like how.
Yeah, it honestly, yeah, it literally, if you sound it out, it says stop, comma, or sure.
Square.
I know it says square, but if you sound it out, it's like sure. Like.
Alright, yeah, we're going to go into debate that's relevant towards this piece of legislation, like actually changing something or anything. So, would anyone else like to be recognized for debate?
Wait, this is like outside funding, it's not like University of Connecticut, right?
The university is only granted is outside.
Okay.
Carr.
So I was just going to say that I would encourage you all to vote yes for this. I think that it's the university's attempt to kind of just like fix the race issue. It's very problematic. I don't see how dropping 43 black men in school in the states will help in any way. I also see I foresee problems as far as like people trying to come and terrorize them, because I'm sure we already see things on media and things like that. So it's like if we're putting them all in the states, everyone knows where it is. You know, I foresee like a lot of issues with that.
Thank you, Senator Carr. Would anyone else like to be recognized for debate? Yes, Senator Surowitz.
So I think those points are all really well taken, and I think I'm going to vote yes on this piece of legislation, and thank everyone for actually explaining why.
Alright, would anyone else like to be recognized for debate? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of approving a statement of position regarding the Scholastic House of Leaders who are African American researchers and scholars, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? And clearly passes. We now continue on to an act concerning legislative funding for the Arab Students Association.
Whereas the undergraduate student government is charged with improving experiences with the student body through the funding of undergraduate student initiatives, whereas the Arab Student Association seeks to educate students and stories about Arab culture and improve relations in the community in light of recent gender bias, whereas the Arab Student Association already secured $2,000 in funding for food for their April 17th Arab Cultural Festival, whereas the first event the Arab Student Association is hosting of this magnitude, and they received counsel from other student groups about how much food is necessary for these events after they already submitted budget requests. Whereas the aforementioned initiative bears clear merits to the student body, therefore be resolved that the student government allocates $2,000 in additional funds to the Arab Association for their Arab Cultural Festival.
Do I see a motion by Cognado? Is there a second by Bird? Any questions? Yes, Cognado. Yes, we 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. If Lisa gets back, we do. And Steph goes. And Bird. I think a lot of people stepped out. So Senator Cognado does have a point.
Senator Bird is coming back for this legislation, but I think he's stepped out for a longer period.
Well, Senator Cognado does have a point. We can't actually vote on this. Our total number is 26, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh wait, no, we have quorum. We're fine. No, I'm not. We have quorum. Never mind. Continue. We have quorum. Right? We need 14 people. We have 14 people. We have 15 people actually.
Okay.
Yeah, we have 15 people. All right. Seeing now, we'll move into debate. Would anyone like to be recognized for debate? Alright, seeing none, we'll move into a vote. All those in favor of approving and not considering legislative funding for the Arab Student Association, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? And clearly passes. We'll now continue with the not considering the bylaws of the Programs Oversight Committee, but Director Johnny stepped out, and I think she's very, very important for this aspect of it, so I'd like to entertain It's not on the 5th area?
I printed it out. An executive.
Okay, my apologies. I wasn't that this. Alright, we'll continue into an act concerning legislative funding for UConn Club Taekwondo. Is it last?
An act concerning emergency legislative funding for UConn Club Taekwondo. Whereas the undergraduate student government is charged with providing student initiatives through funding. Whereas the UConn Taekwondo Club's chief financial officer did not submit a funding request to pay for the club's coach for the fall 2015 semester. Whereas the coach had already signed his intent to coach for a $4,000 payment in the fall of 2015. Whereas the chief financial officer untruthfully informed the organization that the funding request had already been submitted. Whereas the chief financial officer dropped out of school in the spring 2016 semester, and the succeeding chief financial officer was just informed of the previous officer's untruthful actions. Whereas the new chief financial officer is now obligated to pay the coach for his services in the fall 2015 semester. Whereas coaching fees are a Category B request and are subject to 100% funding. Therefore, be it resolved that the undergraduate student government allocates $4,000 in emergency legislative funding to UConn Club Taekwondo to fulfill their coaching fees.
Yes.
Point of information.
Yes.
I just want to ask that, I know this has been a question before, if this is possible.
Yeah, is this the
Or is the principal? This is considered a draft.
Oh, okay. Yes, Chairperson Purcell.
Why is it not legally possible?
Well, because they already, I'm just thinking of, like, same question again, is this possible because the contract is already signed without?
That's that question before.
Yeah, that's what I'm just trying to.
Which aspect are you questioning the legality of?
Well, we just had been told before that, like, if we submit something to, what is it, the business office or something like that, retroactive funding or something like this, that it's against their policies, and if we say we want it, they won't do it. That was brought up one time, I'm not sure if that's absolutely true, but that's something that we should know.
This is a check for a coach, right? So it's like we're paying like a little part of the salary to a coach. They need the services, they signed the letter of intent, and then it like got lost with the CFO. Sorry, you ready to go?
Yeah.
If you want, I can yield to the representative, so they can tell their side.
Well, I'm gonna let Comptroller Wanda speak first.
So, the way that coaching requests work, or any contractual request works, is that especially with coaches, is that an entity like that isn't supposed to conduct their services until our organization has promised to pay them. And the way that promise to pay happens is through a purchase order. A purchase order says that you are now, we will definitely promise to pay you, bind it legally, for the amount of hours that you work that is outlined in your letter of intent, and we'll do so at the end of the year when you invoice us for that amount. So a group will request whatever, $4,000 for their coach. And the coach is not supposed to start teaching, or no one's supposed to do any kind of instruction until that promise is given. Up until then, that individual is liable for their own loss. We aren't held liable or bounded to pay them, even because nothing has been signed. That purchase order is signed by the organization on behalf of USG, saying that we are going to pay them. If that hadn't been paid, if that hadn't been signed, if that wasn't received in the first place, this coach himself can't hold us liable for not making a payment in fall 2015. Make sense?
So my question is, though, can we approve this legislation? Is that we can?
Essentially, I would say no, given the fact that, was a funding ever approved is the first question. Were the services conducted is the second question, and was a purchase order ever signed is the third question. And the fourth is, was an invoice ever given for the amount, for the services?
I'm going to yield to Chairperson Priscilla because he has something to say.
I don't think any of those things happened, except the coach did provide services, which the group can elaborate more on. But I think the point is that the group was told by the CFO that all of those things had happened. I don't think there's nothing preventing you from funding this request, but we can be held liable for not funding it. I think is what part of the saying. I don't think there's anything you said that means we can't decide to fund it. It's just that we're not responsible for the coach's loss if we just choose not to.
So just to make one last thing clear, we have in our policies, we have things that are restrictions like cuts and caps, like you can't hold a 12K cap. And then we have a list of things that's like in the first two clauses of our funding policies that are things that can't be funded over, things that are involving alcohol or social in nature or like a networking conference or something like that. This is where something like that would fall. And retroactive also falls in the same categories with tier 3s itself. I'm more than confident, I believe, that something like this, the business office wouldn't approve, given that it was services that were done that weren't approved for. My team itself could say, oh, I had a dude that was, he was teaching us for the past semester, and now he wants $2,000. But, I never put anything into the funding system, or I never got a PO or anything, but he signed the letter of intent. This is, it's a very unfortunate situation that something like this happened, but in this case, it's believable, yes, but there's always that question of, was this actually negligence, or was this actually like an accident? If that makes sense. All right, I'm not comfortable with this in any capacity. That's my 2 cents. You're allowed to.
All right, we'll continue with questions. Maybe here.
I didn't know. It still technically hasn't been answered. But this is something that's been used in debate on like this. I feel like it's a question that should be ruled on.
before, I mean, if we're saying that there's a possibility that our decision was exclusive voice, then that's what this should be answered.
Officially, Abby?
I
We've
would-
done this before. We did it this year.
Yeah,
So-
but didn't we get rid of all of the coaching providers before that interest we were provided? I mean, this is also last semester.
I mean, something last semester we've done. And I mean, with ballroom, they forgot their budget. This was like gross negligence by the old CFO who lied to his. I think it's apples and oranges. And if you're worried about the legality of us getting Sabo to pay, we've done it before. We did it with club volleyball. We were the sponsoring center for that.
Okay, I believe so.
All right, is there a motion? Yes, sir, is there a second? Avoid. Moving to questions. Any questions regarding this piece of legislation? Yes, Senator Searles.
Were these services rendered already, or were these services only, I understand that they signed a contract and they had an agreement. Did they actually receive any of these services?
Yes, we received coaching for 2015 fall season.
How much coaching did you receive so far?
Full of what he had agreed to, all practices and all tournaments he attended and coached.
Could you estimate like a ballpark in hours?
So that would have been 8 hours a week
Yeah.
for coaching practices, and then the tournaments would have been a 2 or 3 day affair, 2-day affair, 3 times a semester.
Okay. 8 hours per week throughout the entire semester.
So I'm ballpark around 200 hours for that semester.
Thanks.
Yes, Parliamentarian Puglisi.
Are one of you the new CFO?
No.
No, I'm afraid the CFO's not.
Okay. I kind of just wanted to, okay. What did he sign in his intent? Like, what did that entail? Yes, the wording of it, like, just kind of like the structure of it.
Unfortunately, I don't know.
Okay.
It's a letter of intent. It says I agree to coach this team for these amount of hours.
For this amount of money.
Yes.
Okay. Third question, and then I'll be done. So the CFO is no longer here. He's no longer a part of the club, the organization, and then he had just lied, and then your coach never received any type of funding, but he continued to coach you guys?
That's correct.
Okay.
He was under the impression that he would receive.
He was under the impression he would receive the stipend at the end of the semester. Okay.
Are there Lemoyne?
Can I ask you a question?
Ask me? No, ask 2 questions, yeah.
The first one is, do we have a public about this?
Yes.
So for that, is second.
Technically, no.
No, no.
Okay,
Yeah.
so like, no. Okay.
All right, wait, hold on. Senator Lemoyne, finish your line of questioning, and then I'll yield to.
Yeah, the second thing, so I only double letter of intent when it comes to, it's more of a question of the Chair of Casella. I only double letter of intent when it comes to Withdrawal via, like, not software, via my manager, like into the former. And letter of intent as we've gone through Withdrawal is absolutely nothing. I'm not saying that should affect what we're saying here, but it doesn't have any kind of jurisdiction in any world. Because it's just a letter of intent. It has to be an actual
Ours are
contract.
legally binding, I think.
I'm saying this is, no, it's like,
about contract or?
if it's just a letter of intent, it doesn't count.
Purchase
The
order.
purchase order is different than.
Not the letter of intent.
Yeah,
Because
it's
you
like,
have a letter of intent signed and then the funding of the request.
Okay,
because
I'm gonna-
I'm trying to letter of intent from the former, like, it's just a letter of intent saying, this is what we want from you, this is what you want from us, and we don't do anything in class, but it's not necessary.
That wasn't really a
Yes,
question.
I do have
But I'll yield to Comptroller Rana.
So a very important thing to note with this is requesting money for fall 2015. So when we have an organization that can't get something funded or the money in their hands for the semester itself, bookkeeping has to explicitly get in writing from either myself, from the comptroller saying, is it okay for us to roll over this allocation from fall 2015 to spring 2016? And, for every semester previous in the same manner. So in this sense, even if you were to approve this, what budget is it coming out of? It technically can't come out spring 2015 budget, 2016 budget, because this is for a fall 2015 request. Yes, Father-in-law?
Yeah, point of information. When we did the legislative request for volleyball last semester, that came out of the fall 2015 budget. It was a spring 2015 budget. So how was it? How was it?
I really think we updated that volleyball. You could correct me if I'm wrong, but right now we need to see the legislation itself.
So which budget did it come out of?
It would have came out of that budget itself. I really feel like I would have remembered if something was for the semester for the previous.
That came out of the fall budget because that's part of why our budget was so high for legislative requests. I'm pretty sure.
I'll have to check.
Senator Cagotto.
Thank you.
Yes, Senator Goebel. Yeah, sure.
Is this going to, like, if you don't pay your coach, is this going to negatively affect you getting like, a different coach or like your reputation with other clubs or something? Like, do you think that that's a concern?
We are unable to compete in tournaments unless we have a coach. And as of right now, we don't know where we'd get another coach if he decided to drop out.
Okay, but are we funding, correct me if I'm wrong, we're funding a coach for last semester, right? Not for this semester?
I assume that it's the same coach, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so if they don't fund him for last semester, this semester they will be negatively affected because of that. I assume.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, Senator Cagotto.
Is this coach receiving budgeted reimbursement this semester?
Yes.
And did they, did they receive budgeted funding in spring 2015?
Yes, they did.
Okay, so was there ever a document submitted or anything by this CFO who was untruthful, or was there anything submitted? Are there any documents that pertain to this, or they just didn't, because of the CFO, they didn't file anything at all, and said that?
Just to clarify, sir, you're distinguishing between falsified documents and documents.
Yeah.
He didn't submit any at all, but informed us of that.
All right. Yes, Senator Langer.
So in theory, the coach should know that purchase order, especially if they have to coach for a few years, you should have known that something is different. They might have gotten an email.
Yeah, just for my information, usually you probably have seen coaches in the office, just walking in the dining area, filling out forms. Because I recognize a lot of these coaches that use the gym. Like I've seen a badminton coach in table tennis. So yes, they are usually points in contact with steps and
Yes, Parliamentarian Puglisi.
So, since we just established that with Senator Langer, that there was something obviously different this semester, did your coach ever come to your team and say, I think the CFO had basically gone rogue, he didn't document, they didn't submit a budget request, that kind of stuff?
This is when we were first made aware that there was a problem.
From your coach?
Yes. When he came and spoke to us regarding the fact that we hadn't been paid yet, and it was the start of the new semester, and to which the CFO was absent, and we began this process.
So he never said anything in the middle of the semester?
No, he was something.
When was this known?
Yeah.
The end of the semester?
Cagotto.
So was this CFO only serving for the fall 2015?
He had been serving, I believe, from fall 2014 until the beginning of this semester.
Yes.
What kind of relationship on a general level does your club facilitate between the president or the chief officer of the organization and the treasurer? Was there a discussion of your budget for the fall semester, and the budget was clear, but there was no intent form, or what was that procedure like? I know it's kind of vague.
There was a somewhat lack of communication between the president and treasurer, due to, we're in the transition period of the new president. The old president isn't available as she was previously.
Lloyd.
I guess it's just, I mean, there's last week brought up now, like how these systems found out from the students. But it just seems like this wasn't the case last semester, we brought up. So it's like, we're seeing now, so like, you just find out sort of deal.
Yes, this was brought up as soon as we were made aware of the issue.
Okay.
Do you have a specific date that you're made aware, or just a ballpark it?
About a month into the semester, is when our coach made us aware. And we began the process of figuring out how to check what had been sent, who would have sent it, and figuring out if it was merely a processing error or if there truly was an issue with who was being sent.
All right, Senator Canada?
So is there a budget for the fall 2015 such that includes coaching, or was that the only item that you were going for and there was nothing set up for it, or whether there was an entire budget just not touching on? Do we know?
So, my understanding, this is but my understanding is the other items in the budget, there were tournaments and other fees that were involved with running the club. The coaches was just one thing that was submitted to the rest of the batch, and because of the
So we might have to deal with this, but so was there funding, was there a budget that included $4,000 in coaches for the fall collective semester?
I'll yield to Chairperson Porcello or Councilor Rana if you have information.
I can give, at least for the disbursement itself, there was nothing for fall 2015 in regards to the coach. There was only stuff for MIT, Cornell, and Brown tournaments. Nothing about the coach.
So for the disbursement, but
Yes,
Chairperson
now we
Porcello
can-
for their budget for it?
I'll need a sec.
All right. Does anyone else have a question that doesn't involve the disbursement or budget? Yes, Nada.
Actually, sorry,
We'll just hang on for a little bit because I feel like it's very important.
Yeah, they were budgeted $4,000.
They're budgeted, and does that include the coach or no?
Yeah, they were budgeted $4,000.
Okay.
And then, wait, actually, I'll have more, give me a second, I'll have more info.
Wait, Steve, that $4,000 was for this semester?
No, I thought we were asking for fall. Yeah.
Oh, for fall.
Yeah, we're talking about fall right now.
So, and so I guess that's the point. All right, so I thought we were saying there was no intent to coach, but the legislation says whereas the coach had already signed his intent to coach.
There was no PO form. There was no purchase order. There was an intent to coach form is like.
Okay. So he never submitted a disbursement. Nope. So I feel like it doesn't say that. It says did not submit a.
That's what they told me in the that's what they told me in the email. That he did not fill out his intent to the coach form, and that's what I wrote into the legislation.
Okay. So I just want to clarify if there is or is not.
So he said no. He said he did fill it out, but there was an intent to coach.
Our coach filled out his intent to coach form, but I do believe it would be like dispersal request or whatever.
Okay, so the form was, but the PO purchase order, which is the binding aspect of it, is not.
Can I like suspend the rules and give information because I have a lot?
I mean, just point of information because you're the chairperson. You can.
I have a lot of email correspondence with your old CFO, and I think it'll help if I kind of lay out the timeline. Can I do that?
Yeah, I'm gonna. But you know, it's consistent. Can we suspend the rules for as long as chairperson Marcel needs to read the emails? So ordered.
Alright, so I had like a bunch of emails that I just found by looking at Max, their old CFO. Their budget was sent out to them April 17th. They were given a deadline of May 1st to get their coaching request in. I noticed that he didn't go to a disbursement workshop, so he wouldn't be able to submit the request. He said to me, hey, I'm sorry to admit I've kind of messed up the times for the disbursement training. At first I thought it was for new CFOs, then I realized it's mandatory, so I guess there's an issue. Is there anything I can do about this? I said, I'm going to push you to our May 13th deadline. So I gave him a 2-week extension. He said, thank you so much, sorry for the confusion. As the May 13th deadline approached, I saw that he still hadn't signed up for a workshop, so I emailed him and I said, hey, there's 2 more workshops left. If you want to be able to request, you have to attend one of these. He didn't. On the 15th, he emailed me again. He said, this is Max Martone from UConn TKD. In my head, I thought May 13th was a Friday. I had everything ready to go for today, except today isn't May 13th. I have nothing to say other than I'm sorry, and I should have looked at the calendar. I've never missed a deadline before. If you're still willing to accept, I had the request filled out. I said, look, in the fairness to all groups, I just can't accept this 2 days late. But in the fall, if you'd like to work with me on legislative funding, I understand that. Let me know if you have any questions. He said, I'll make sure I get everything together for next semester. Thank you. I'm assuming at this point he told the group, don't worry, we'll get the funding in the fall. And he then left, and that never happened. So I can understand where, I just wanted to give the information.
One information, it says he dropped out in the spring throughout the season, so he was there through the fall, he did drop out through the fall.
He just lies.
That's a question to the group, but I'm assuming yes.
Yes, he was like.
You never reached out to me again.
If they were kind of shaky with him in the spring already, did you guys know that?
There was a period in the spring where he came once or twice and then stopped coming and wouldn't answer emails or phone calls, to which eventually we found out through one of his friends that he had dropped out.
I'm talking about spring of last year.
Oh,
So already he's missed 2 deadlines, he's not really corresponding with Steven that well. Were you made aware that he wasn't really, I know school is off, so you had no idea that things were already not going well with the CFO.
Yeah, we were unaware that things were going unwell.
By your unanimous consent, can you reinstate the rules? So ordered. Are there any further questions? Senator Cognato.
So I just want to walk through the whereas clauses and make sure that they're all correct. I feel like, so there was an intent to coach for $4,000. But he did submit a budget request, including the funding for $4,000 disbursement requests. So is that, do the chair or do you think that's something to change the legislation?
The only information I received from the email that he did fill out the intent to coach form, and based on that information, I wrote that into the legislation. I did not get any indication in the email that he did not submit, that the coach did not submit the purchase order, but that the CFO didn't submit any funding. So I didn't get any specific types of funding in the email. This is the only information that I received.
So, because there was a disbursement request filed, but it was budget for it, was the coach form signed, does that actually mean that we are, the third to the bottom clause says that the new chief financial officer is now obligated to pay the coach for services? Is there a contractual obligation in fact there, or?
Point of information, that's not true. That part of it.
So
I think part of it agree, right? That whereas clause, the new chief is now obligated to pay the coach, is not true. We're not liable. We're not
so
obligated.
motion to pass.
But are they obligated because of the
Are we
fact
still
that they
questions?
signed?
They didn't sign, no.
Oh, they didn't.
Technically, no.
We're still in questions. Alright, so we're still in questions, so that's something that we can look into and debate. Senator Canada. Yes, Senator Canada.
So I have a question for the group, well, actually anyone can answer. So you guys have a coach right now
Yes.
who is paid, everything is all set. So if the coach, or I'm guessing the same coach, if he or she doesn't get paid for all from the team, does that affect the group in any way going forward?
Yes.
And how would it
He will
affect?
likely quit.
He will.
He will likely quit.
He will likely quit. So that's like him telling you guys that he's going to get paid. But to the best of my understanding, from the discussion that we had, it was also he would be aware of the fact that he will not be getting paid for that semester. Am I correct? So the whole thing with the purchase order, he would be aware of the fact that he was not getting paid.
Here's my understanding of the timeline is once he realized, he probably, when Austin asked that question, he should have known the thing, but he could have realized like, hey, it's getting later and later, I'm not getting it. Because sometimes our bookkeepers get backed up. And once he realized that, he always expected to get paid, he was always being told by the group. And once he realized that there was an issue, he contacted the group, and the group figured out that the CFO was doing wrong. But he was under the expectation at all times that he was being paid. So now he's probably going to leave because he's been being told this whole time he's getting paid. So he goes, okay, well, when do you want me to go to USG like I usually do? They go, well, something's not right. And then, so he was always under expectation he's going to get paid. When he realized the process was different, that's when they came to Steve, and as soon as they realized that was wrong.
Okay, so the coach in this situation did all he could to make sure everything was
Yes.
okay. All right, that's fine. Thanks.
Alright, are there any more questions? Yes, Comptroller Ron.
How many semesters has this coach been receiving funding?
He began coaching us in spring 2015, so this will be his third semester.
Are there any other questions? Yes, Senator Canada.
If he is, if in the scenario that this funding doesn't get passed and he is not happy with that, he is required to stay. This, you can't just like quit now, but that there's a contractual binding.
So my understanding, if you're to quit now, he just wouldn't receive his payment, correct?
Yes, he violated his contract, right?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that that's.
Yeah, I would assume he'd finish out so he could get this semester's payment, and then he'd probably leave.
Yes.
Okay, fair. Alright, Senator Surowitz.
Can I hear a question to the group?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, you to Burr and then Burr yields to the group.
Does the group like their coach, and would the group like to keep their coach?
I'll yield to you guys.
Yes, we would love to keep our coach.
Thank you.
Alright, are there any other questions? Yes, Senator Canada.
What is the official membership of the group, or how many people attend the meetings with the coaches and utilize the services?
Approximately between 20 and 30 members.
Are there any other questions? Yes, Parliamentarian Puglisi.
Moving directly to Burr, yielding to you. What are your names, by the way?
My name is Madeline Lesko.
Madeline. James.
Did they sign in?
Yes, they did. I gave them the computer.
I'm just making sure because you're
No,
more
and
station.
me, which is what my question kind of pertains to. Moving forward, because you had such an issue last semester, have you put into new procedures, new plans, that kind of stuff, to one, check in with your CFO, two, check in with USG to make sure your CFO is doing the job they're supposed to do, three, checking in with your coach to make sure he is aware?
Yes, since becoming aware, we realized how many lack of cautionary measures we had in place, and now we have greater communication between all of our executive board members, as well as our new CFO is more open than our old CFO in terms of discussing upcoming deadlines and sharing information. So
I think just moving forward, just because it was such a huge payment, I think if you, as an exec board, say to your CFO, you need to produce this document by this date, and then you can check back in with the funding board chairperson saying, we got this document, we've confirmed that this chairperson is from USG with you. Okay, good. All right, I'm done.
Technically, Barbara, technically this is out of order, but that was some great advice.
Why? I question and then, okay, all right. Yeah, you're right.
All right. Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll move into debate. Would anyone like to be recognized for debate? Yes, Chairperson Marcella. Skipping on over.
So, I didn't do So like throughout this year, we've had a lot of legislative requests, and it's kind of funny that this one's gotten so much debate because I think it's like we have actual documented proof that the CFO like lied to the group and didn't tell them what was going on, and every other time we've just kind of taken the group's word for it. And sometimes when I've known that maybe that wasn't exactly how it played out, I kept my mouth shut, or they groups maybe extended the truth a little bit, but this time they're not. This group got screwed here, and I really think we should help them out. They're going to lose their coach. I understand paying for something in the past semester is not ideal, and Comptroller Rana is right in that we can't be held liable if we choose not to, but that doesn't mean we can't. So I would really fight for this group here. So thank you.
Burr.
Strike out obligated request and replace it with, so the chief financial officer requests paid coaching services.
By unanimous consent, can we change this single word? Okay, so ordered. Would anyone else like to be recognized for debate? Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. All those in favor of approving and not considering legislative funding for Yukon Club Taekwondo, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? No, 2 abstentions. And clearly passes. Congratulations. Okay, so my lovely Deputy Speaker and Chief Justice Griff have informed me the correct procedure on how to do this next part. So I will be entertaining a motion to remove USG v. Sullivan from the agenda. Motion by Way, second by Cognado. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Just 1, 2 people abstain. And removed, and then, what's the second motion?
Mr. Speaker, I motion to enter into the record the reason for the withdrawal of this item of business.
So there's a motion to put it into the minutes, essentially, about why we are withdrawing it. Is there a second? Murray? All those in favor of the motion to enter the record, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? I abstain. Deputy Speaker abstains too. And so ordered. We are done with businesses, and we'll now move into the report of the President Convoy.
Hello everyone. I have a slightly long report just to keep everyone updated with what's going on at the university. But I'm going to no growth, people. There you go. First of all, I'll start with something really nice that was said about everyone. There's 2 things I'd really like to hear in the meeting. The first thing is that I'm doing a good job. But the second thing, and sometimes more important, is when I hear that the USG as a whole is doing a really good job. And Adam and I were reflecting with our mentor, Dr. Gilbert, and he said that every USG member he's encountered this year and worked with has been professional, has stayed in communication with him, and has executed a lot of different goals and missions. And I think that's really great to hear, because a lot of times we hear, oh, we've lost contact with this student, or this student stopped responding. So that was really great to hear that everyone's doing a good job, so keep it up. Okay, no one cares. All right, next up. Yeah, that was really nice to hear that. He is. For those of you who didn't know, the Chief Diversity Officer was announced today, Joelle Murchison. There was a great Today Campus article kind of giving her background. There was also an email sent out today. I met with her in regards to, it was more about a faculty retention meeting, but she's great. And I highly encourage any members that are going to be here next next year, and the future leaders of USG to reach out to her and immediately build that relationship, because her main job above all, as President Harris said, will be the students and the student experience. So it's important that we get our foot in the door as soon as she gets a door in an office. So that's important. Next up, health services search is coming, and it's really great because it's going to be the same setup as the CDO search with different presentations and interviews. It's really important, and it's great that we give good feedback on these, because the moment that we just kind of take it for granted that they're doing these open and transparent searches is the moment they're going to stop, because they're going to say, well, students don't really care. If we're invited in the room and we're given a seat, we should be in that seat, we should be giving feedback, we should be filling out the surveys after, because the Director of Health Services will be overseeing mental and health services, the building of the new health services building, medical services on campus, and also they will be moving wellness under this person. So it's really important that we have a good relationship with this person. It's a person who's going to advocate on behalf of students and their health on campus. Torrington today, that was the campus closing, moving to the next step. I'm not really, I missed it. Adam and I went to the Board of Trustees meeting. I'm not sure what that meant. I kind of missed that conversation, but basically the committee moved it forward and it'll be voted on in April to whether or not they're going to close the campus. So you still have a month to do some discourse and to talk about how we feel about that, and to see how STORE students feel on that. West Hartford sale, was that passed today or no? West Hartford campus, the current campus, is being, I don't know if it was sold or the sale's happening.
They're in discussion.
Yeah, it's in discussion, that's what I thought. I was just making sure I didn't miss that also in the meeting. We missed the first part of it, but that's something else to look into. It's an important thing. Just UConn in the news, tuition may be going up. There was a clause in that when they passed the 4-year plan that they could reopen it. So 4-year plan for now until the Board of Trustees decides to open it. They can open it at any time, so it's something that we should be keeping an eye out for. Okay, nominations committee, thank you for everyone who showed interest. I have a statement on my pen. So I'm just going to do group nomination. I also nominate the chair, and what this committee is, because some people were a little bit confused, this is the committee that will call for letters for those who want to sit on the judiciary next year. First of all, well, it'll all be a group. I'll just do the group. So I'd like to first nominate Senator Ali as the chair. I'd then like to nominate Senator Cognato, Senator Kundu, Senator Murray, and Senator DeReer to sit on the nominations committee, as well as, I don't know if I'll just put it in, Chief Justice Griff will sit as the judicial ex officio on the committee. So I'd like to put that as a nomination.
Do the nominees accept their nominations? Can the nominees please stand? Do the nominees accept? Are there any questions for any of the nominees? Any debate? Oh.
Steve has a question.
You want to say it in debate?
I'm like had the hand.
Alright, fine. I'll give it to Chairperson Pacello.
Chair Ali, what's some of the qualities you look for in a potential nominee? What are you looking for out of these court justice nominees?
I would look for people who are dedicated to the future organization as a whole, who have some knowledge of what the Constitution is, how it comes to the government document. People also have history records on how history became informed in USG. So that this case is just for the future to be a more active career, because they will have to be more active in the body.
Thank you, Chairperson Pacello. That's a great question. Are there any other questions? Yes, Chairperson Valverde.
So I'm really happy with this. So I just have a question for Senator Donato. So why do you want to be a part of this? Since you're leading as seniors, what kind of, I guess, what do you see for the future of the organization?
Sure. So I really, on committee, I think, in terms of me being a leading member means kind of an understanding for me that I'm going to be yielding more to the people on the committee that are going to play a more active role next year, because I want to be there. But I think as a overseer of elections in the way that I was really witnessing firsthand the way the judiciary functioned then, that I think I have a lot of questions that I think would be good to ask someone who wants to be in that role of a a justice that I hope I'll get to ask in those meetings. But I can't say that I was, the person in there saying this has to happen when I know that I'm going to be graduating.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, we'll move into debate. Would anyone like to debate these nominees? Or are you going to stay standing? Please stay standing. Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. All those in favor of approving these 5 wonderful individuals for the nominations committee and Tyler Riff as the justice, I don't really know if that's relevant or not, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? 1, 2, 3, 4 abstentions, 5 abstentions, including me. And approved.
And then just one last thing is, so those 2 pieces of legislation that Senator Ali, along with other senators, presented today are conversations that are going on at the faculty level. So once those are printed on our nice paper and signed, I'm just going to submit those along so that they know our point of view as an organization on that. So, thank you guys.
Are there any questions for President Convoy? Yes, Senator Kingado.
What would the process be for USG to consider and discuss whether or not to make a statement about the Torrington closing or possibly increases in tuition, especially if those are going to happen purposefully at times that are inconvenient for us to see? Should we be proactively meeting about this, assuming that it's going to happen? Is it going to happen? Do you have any idea?
For the Torrington one, I think we could ask for caucus time on it to kind of talk about it as senators, as their constituencies. Yeah, we could have caucus time too, because a lot of that information is released. Unfortunately, the tuition sum is something that, we could talk about what we want our response to be. That would be a great way to caucus on what we want our response to be, because we can't plan for when it's going to come up. But we could talk from like a PR standpoint who our connections are, and where we're going to stand if they try to put the burden on students again. So, great question.
I'm going to yield to Deputy Speaker Wang. You may.
Yes, Scott Jordan has reached out and who wants to talk about it. So, expect to...
about the Torrington mix as well, or just the tuition?
He does both, so we can
Okay.
ask him about both.
He is one of the lead people in Torrington. Yes.
Are you the statement position on Torrington or fees? Are you just kind of like offering for
Yeah, we could do, I don't want to do a rush statement of position to make sure, because I know we've been trying to get all the facts and stuff. Torrington also looks like it's kind of a done deal, but I still think it's valuable that we state our opinion, or we could decide to stay neutral. We could say this doesn't affect our students. It really depends on what you guys view. Yeah.
Is there a student government at Torrington?
Yes. Yep. And we are in contact with them. Yeah. Yeah. So all that Vice President Kugler has specifically been in contact with them too, and that's why I went today too to kind of get some information. And we have their contacts. Thanks to you, Kanye.
You may sit. We'll now move into the report of the VP, Vice President Kugler. Or Board of Trustee-elect.
So yeah, Bennett, on that last point, they reached out to us, and I reached out back to them as somebody who will be representing them in a couple of months. So I'm going to talk to them on the phone on Fridays. A couple of leaders who are going to reach out and talk about their concerns. Okay, so first thing, the membership event that will be this Sunday, 6 p.m. in the SOC. We'll be watching the women's game, the Final Four game together. If you want to go to this, you must RSVP by Friday. Did everybody see the email from Chief of Staff Legicon? She's done a lot of good work on this, another good membership event, so please do come to that. Make sure you RSVP. Next Wednesday, you should have gotten an email from me about the U21 reception at the Nathan Hale. It's a great opportunity to meet people from around the world. So if you'd like to come to that, please do. I know it's going to overlap with caucus, so I've worked something out with Speaker Ng where if you RSVP and then come to this event, it will count as, you won't be counted as an excused absence. But if you RSVP, you have to come. We are going to be keeping track. So RSVP by noon tomorrow. And then the last thing is just banquet, which you all should have gotten an RSVP invite to. It's going to be April 15th. That's a Friday. We'll be meeting at 5 p.m. to head out. The cost is $20 for members of USG. If you bring a guest who's not a member of USG, their price will be $15. And if anyone has any issues with like the money portion of it, just please send me an email, come talk to me, we'll work something out. So that's it for me. Dan?
Are there any questions? Yes, Chairperson Bird.
Do we RSVP the U21 thing by just responding to that email?
Yeah, reply. I'm sorry, I didn't make that kind of email. I just assumed people would reply to me, which a lot of people have, which is great, but
I have a question. What does the reception for U21 entail?
sure. So the reception will be all of these members from the U21 universities who are delegates to this conference this year. This will be the day that they're arriving, most of them. So it'll kind of be like a meet and greet with members of UConn and to kind of talk to them. There'll be like some like little cocktail foods, and it's going to be business casual attire. So just yeah, more of like a kind of socializing with people from around the world, making them feel comfortable at UConn, and like welcoming them here for our.
Yes, Senator Lang.
They're getting an email tonight, so.
Are there any other questions for Vice President Kugler? Yes, Senator Surwitz.
Is there a dress code for that event?
Yeah, business casual.
Like what you would wear to Senate?
But not even a tie, yeah. Unless you're Chairperson Corsello is breaking Senate dress code because.
I don't know if there is a Senate.
There isn't. It was because of it's whatever.
We never decided on ties.
We never
But please
specifically.
try and nice. Thank you. That's all we ask.
You don't need to wear a tie to the reception.
All right. Any other questions for Vice President Kugler? All right. Thank you, VP Cook. All right. We'll now move into a report of the legislative branch, which is me. So yeah, as Vice President Kugler pointed out, next week's caucus, you can choose to go to U21, or you can choose to show up to caucus and we can have a discussion. You guys can choose whatever you want. I will be around in the office. We're not going to reserve a place because I expect a lot of you to go to U21. This is a very, very great opportunity, especially with the future of what we want to do with U21. So I will be in the SOC at 6:30 on Wednesday. Anyone who doesn't go to U21 should be there, and we'll just talk. We'll talk about what you want to discuss in 2 weeks at that caucus, anything you want to work on Senate for the next week, anything that it's open-ended, because I hope that the majority of you go to this U21 because it is a once-in-a-lifetime experience for us to be hosting this, or a once-in-a-college-time experience. And look out for my little straw poll for what you want to discuss in our last caucus. And we have about 4 weeks left, so keep it up, keep it strong, let's finish strong. And I will now end my report. Any questions? Yes, Senator Ignato.
The calendar for the semester in the office says that on April 6th, the scheduled talk for executive compensation discussion on that. Is that not the case?
It depends. Are you two planning on going to U21? They're going, so it's no longer what we're going to do. It's U21 or something that even you can decide what the senators do. Any other questions? Yes, Ali. What time does that start? 7. What time does it end? 10-ish.
It depends, yeah.
Well, I would just, you guys, I won't make the decision for you, but I would just inform you that April 13th will be our last productive Senate of the semester, because first and last, as it stands without legislation or anything, will take about 3 hours to go through combinations. And if you have your extra unexcused, go ahead, absolutely, but just remember that our 13th is the last one because the 27th as it stands, the Senate will start at 6. It's really inconvenient. We'll start at 6:30, but Senate won't actually start till 7:30 because we have the reception beforehand of first class where we have administrators come and we talk with the new senators and administrators. So we won't actually start Senate on the 27th till 7:30, and then we have the last part of the Senate, which is commendations, which is we have to pass the budget as well. And so the first Senate aspect won't start until 9. It's up to your discretion. It is. But I will not be canceling it because it is our last productive Senate. Yes, Chairperson.
Is that going to be a problem with foreign moves? Because we're going to have funding legislation that might be one of the most important things to pass.
If there... Yeah, if you plan on missing the next Senate, please email as soon as you know that you're going to miss it, because if that does happen, I will try to, if it's a very important funding request, I might call for a special Senate during the caucus the following week just to get it done. Not soon enough. Then I might try to gather 14 of you, because that's all we need for quorum. I'm going to call a special Senate and give you notice 48 hours before to do it on maybe that Friday or maybe earlier, if it is that important. But. Or we can move Senate until 6, which would... Yeah, we'll talk. Sorry, I'm taking up too much time. All right, Councilor Rana.
Cool. All right. So blue means that's what you budgeted. Red means that's what you spent a month ago. Green means that's what you spent this semester. So
Take back the night is very important, and I'll probably go to that too. But here's the compromise: we start at 6, we get what we need to get done first, and then we have our time. That's just my suggestion, part of my report.
but these are the numbers: student development, student services, external affairs, academic affairs. All of them will see significant spikes in the amount that's spent with the month that is coming. I'm not worried about that. Execs money will also be spent in the same manner, so I'm not worried about that. Community outreach will use this because we'll have the MOU that will be approved. And the MOU is approved, it's just transferring the funds over. Our reserves stay as our reserves. USG generously kind of looks like it's high right now because that's just wages that were paid. All associations, we've only had one come to us. I expect more than just one to come to us. That 1,200 is kind of like the ballpark at the moment because I couldn't get that exact number. And funding board is right on track. Programs probably won't use as much because of our delays in some of our programs, but they're still using some of their money, so it's not like they're not doing anything. Revenues stay in as they are. That net income is from what we budgeted ourselves, and the column for 33216 is what the number is right now of what we spent for our different line items. That's all I've got.
Questions? Parliamentarian Puglisi.
Part of suggestion, if we do part of suggestion, I know you love me. If we start at 6, we should probably make Senate like formal then, or informal, so that people can then attend, take back the night, and not like this is casual wear, so they don't have to like walk around campus and like come to class. You feel me?
I am going to not answer your question because it doesn't pertain to my report. I'm sorry, but yes.
Is there any breakdown that you have of what's going on in programs that certain stuff that could be spent or?
So essentially, Guard Dogs was supposed to spend $68,000 this semester, which didn't happen. Or not? I'm sorry, not 68. They have $25,000, which is operating expenses. They also have another $25,000 that's supposed to be towards the renovation and updates of our SOC. So there was a very productive meeting that happened today with one of the members of POC and Red Thread, and there are advances on that, and they're going to be sending a visual, representation of what it's going to look like. So that money will essentially, I'm hoping, just be rolled over from this one to the next budget without having to add an extra buffer in, if that makes sense. Sure.
What do we allocate money for when you're allocating it to all associations?
Hall associations is residence halls. They changed the name to hall association. So each student in your residence hall is entitled to $2 towards your program. So let's just say Garrigus has 800 kids. That means you have $1,600 to work with for a program that USG would fund. So that's kind of where that money is. That number is 5,000 because we've seen less activity, and they're not strictly bounded to the same kind of
the same policies as a tier 2, so they are allowed things social in nature, they are allowed giveaways and stuff, as long as it's a program that's open to their entire residents. Yeah.
Alright, any other questions for Comptroller Rana? Thank you. We will now move into the report of the Chief Justice, Chief Justice Riff.
Hello, my little exit signs. How's everybody doing tonight? Alright. So, you know what? Tonight was really great. I enjoyed it a lot. You know, tonight was my favorite Senate of this whole year. You know why?
No.
Tell me why. Because for the first time, we didn't spend the whole night. Now, don't get me wrong. I love coming to Senate. I'm here every single week just to be with you. Wonderful, beautiful people. But tonight is the first night that wasn't all funding after funding after funding. We had different statements of position, and we talked about the impeachment, and we really had a lot going on in the Senate tonight. I'm really proud of all of you. A lot of the newer senators this year, you know, you really spoke up and got active, and I'm happy to see that everybody has adjusted well this year. I'm glad to be here. All right, enough of that. What was I going to say? Oh. For the statements of position, don't forget to contact the administration within 72 hours just to let them know that we passed, legislation that pertains to this. Okay, so another thing is I have lots of issues with things that go on in the judiciary. All of you can pass legislation. I cannot pass legislation. If anybody wants to read between the lines there, go ahead. But I'm going to just read a few things because I know some of you may not be at caucus next week because we have the U21 event. So I have a couple proposals for judiciary. Feel free to ask me questions afterwards or send me an email or talk to me, whatever. But it's come to my attention that should there be lack of leadership with the Chief Justice, which, as we all know, it shows at a 5-minute interval between first and last Senate. So it's a little problematic, that whole system, but it's written in the Constitution that we have to do it that way. So I proposed, much like the Speaker of the Senate, we would have a vote of no confidence where 3/4 of the remaining justices would vote to have a vote of no confidence in the Chief Justice. That would not remove the Chief Justice as a justice. They would just simply go back into the pool of other justices and they would nominate a new Chief Justice. That's my proposal for that. I would like to extend speaking rights to the Deputy Chief Justice when the Chief Justice is not present at Senate meetings. I think that's reasonable. I have proposed for the Elections Oversight Committee, I would like to appoint a justice to serve in an ex officio non-voting capacity to the EOC. That particular justice, should there be an elections violation hearing before the judiciary, would not be allowed to serve on the board. So, say Mark is the justice for the EOC, and there was an election violation hearing, Mark would not be allowed to sit on the judiciary. And then 2 other ones which I already have. One justice has to require the Chief Justice, accompany the Chief Justice to Senate meetings, just for constitutional inquiry. And each justice has to choose one committee to serve on for the entire semester so that each committee chair doesn't have to go back and forth with different justices. And also each committee chair would keep in contact with the Chief Justice to let them know whether or not that justice is attending the meetings. So those are some proposals. As I've said, I cannot write legislation. You can all write legislation. So keep in mind. Right, so the nominations committee, I talked to Senator Audley today. We're going to be reaching out to the college Democrats, college Republicans, and also program, so I'll either do it or I'll see if Senator Cosby will get Diane Whitney to send out a mass email to everyone in the pre-law program. Oh, last thing. Okay, so the judiciary. I'm talking to like two people here. So the judiciary has seen a lot of problems this year. Mostly at the beginning of last semester, we had a lot of internal issues, and then we had a lot of cases we saw this semester. But as it turns out, between the impeachment hearing and the elections hearing and all the appeals we've had to do in person and everything, we've actually done more as a judicial branch than any of the previous judicial branches. So I think that's something to really we did good. Yeah, snaps. All right, good, thank you. So, that being said, I did not choose a deputy chief this year because there was a lot going on this year, and then I didn't want anybody to say, well, it's bad timing, you shouldn't do it now, you should do it then, whatever. But one member of the judiciary in particular, Mark Zabrowski, has shown, incredible strides this year. He came in as a freshman of this organization. He's really gotten to know all of USG. He shows up to every single Senate meeting. He's the only one, aside from me. So, I mean, he's really done a great job. Always there to answer questions, always there to give me assistance. So I would like to formally nominate him for the position of deputy chief, but it's not a real nomination because none of you get to vote on it. I just decided, so that's the way it is. But, so, Mark, would you like to say?
Nice.
All right, there we go. So, he's the new deputy chief. I'm done.
Are there any questions with Chief Justice Webb? Yes, Kenyatta.
Is there any new responsibilities and expectations of your new kind of
I would say to work with me with the nominations committee. I know that he is going to reapply to justice, so he can't, so not really. But I'm going to be showing him a lot more intensive stuff about the role of Chief Justice and what it entails, and a lot of the extra stuff I do behind the scenes to get him more appropriate with that.
Dinger.
Can you write legislation just have senators sponsor it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Technically, yes. It's kind of against my moral compass, but, I would never do anything wrong, so
Are there other questions for Chief Justice Webb? Thank you, Chief Justice Webb. We'll now move into the report of academic affairs. Chairperson Gopal, Senator LaVoy will give it. You look great.
Alright, so as Academic Affairs Committee, we're hosting an open source symposium. The day's been announced now for Tuesday, April 19th. It's going to be in the Rome Ballroom. That's going to run from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Dan Bird, I believe, did a lot of work on the symposium. I'll let him speak in more detail about it.
Yeah.
Awesome. The committee is working on fielding questions for faculty members, so we can ask them at the symposium. If anyone has any questions, contact either Ben or Dan, and they'll love to hear them. So Vice Chair Kenzie Morrison and Ben will be working on ordering supplies for care packages in the coming week. They're hoping to do this so they can have to not pay for expedited shipping times, which will save USG a lot of money. The budget is set at $11,000, but we anticipate spending no more than $9,500, which is a huge cut from previous years. We plan on hosting a focus group. That's going to be focused on advising. That's going to be for Dr. Katrina Higgins, and PhD Durr is going to be helping us in that one. We're also going to be working more with Dr. She came in and gave a great report on the master plan for the library to the committee. are going to be putting up a display in the library very soon. I believe, if not this coming week, the week after, talking about the plans and giving the layouts of the future for the library. So I encourage you all to go swing by the library, give that a look, and present any comments, concerns, or recommendations you may have to her. And that's all I have for you today.
Are there any questions for Senator LaVoy? Senator LaVoy will now move into the report of External Affairs, Chairperson Byrd.
Okay, so there's two events on the horizon for External Affairs. The first is a Capital Day and Academic Showcase and USG Press Conference event. We did this last year. I'm sure some of you came. It's on April, if you can take out your calendars, it's on April 13th, which is a Wednesday. We are leaving, gathering at the top of Fairfield Way at 12:15, leaving stores at 12:30. We're getting to Hartford and the mingling with legislators and the academic showcases from 2 to 3. The USG press conference is 3 to 4 or 3 to 3:30. And I'm emceeing it, Rachel's speaking, we have 2 other students, someone from the med school, Bob Diaco is probably going to be there and speaking, and President Herbst is also going to be there. So it's a great event. We have like a bunch of really cool STEM displays, like really cool stuff. So please come, it's a lot of fun, you'll get to meet your legislator, and I will resend out the link for everyone to sign up for the bus. And you can get an excuse note since it is during classes. I was guaranteed that everyone who wants or needs an excuse note can have an excuse note. The second event is the Textbook Symposium, which is on the 19th of April. I forget the exact time, but I can email that out as well to the listserv. We're having a panel about open source textbooks. We're having mini workshops. So if you're interested in listening to that, it's going to be a great event. There's going to be food. So come and learn more about open source textbooks because it's one of the big initiatives that USG has been taking on over the past 2-3 years. So come join us. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions for Chairperson Byrd? Yes, Chief Justice Griff.
What time are we meeting on Fairfield?
12:15. We are leaving exactly at 12:30. So.
And what is the date we can miss on that?
What is the date? The date of the event is April 19th. I don't know the exact time, but I forget, so I'll send that out in an email.
Cool. Chief Electron.
If we need an excuse letter, can we just email you?
Yeah, email me, because that way they can make it like personalized. So if you need an excuse to go to the Capitol, email me to my external affairs email with whatever you need.
Are there any other questions? Thank you, Chairperson Byrd. We'll now move into the report of funding board. Chairperson Priscilla.
If you all pay attention to the first part of my report, it'd be very helpful because this is the really crucial part of funding legislation that I'm going to describe to you what's going on so you know why our next Senate is important whenever we do that. So I have been working with Dawn and the area and a little bit with Comptroller Ron too, and then well, lately we've been working more. We find that the budgets that we make groups do, they end up binding groups. Because let's say we say, fill out a budget, they fill it out, they fill out $4,000 for coaching, that's it. They get approved the $4,000 for coaching. But then it turns out coaching is only $2,000, and they'd like to have catering for $2,000. We can't do that right now. And right now we say, sorry, we can only fund you for coaching. Even though you got approved for $4,000 budget, we can't reallocate that other $2,000. It's too hard, we can't do it. Then let's say they say, we got budgeted for $4,000 for catering, but we also really want to go to nationals. Right now, the only way we can say is, well, do legislative funding. And what we end up with is 5 legislative fundings every Senate, like we've had this whole year. The solution to this is to make the budget non-binding, where groups still submit a budget, but it doesn't bind them. So every group is still entitled to up to $12,000 every semester that can be allocated in any category anyway. this was something that I believed that we would just be able to implement because it's not technically in the policies. After talking to our advisor, Becca, she said, this is such a big change, this really needs to go through the whole organization. So, President-elect Byrd and Comptroller-elect Johnny and I are working to hash out the details right now of how this would work. We have the technological system ready to go, and we're going to have legislation for you hopefully soon, and the idea is to get you Senate to approve it. The one reason I'm saying it really can't be pushed back is because if the Senate were to vote no, which I really hope it wouldn't, and it was any later than 2 Wednesdays from now, we'd be in deep trouble. So that's why we kind of need to figure out what the Senate's views on this are as soon as possible. So I would say if you do have any potential problems with kind of like people that are in USG that I can quickly call for a meeting and they're going to be around the office a lot, so that when it's not like I'm calling 18 people, all the funding board for these, it's a very small amount of requests. I would like to nominate Deputy Chief Electricon, President-elect Byrd, Vice President-elect Valverde, Speaker Ng, and Deputy Speaker Wang. Those are my 5.
Can the nominees please rise?
Whatever. I'm sorry. Chief to the VP.
Do the nominees accept their nomination?
Yes, sorry.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the nominees?
Is anyone questioning why I'm doing this? Because I can explain it from the
Why?
Because it just is easier this way. I mean, these are people that are fairly around the office a lot. They told me they would be interested in doing this, and I thought it would be simple. I'm sorry, Nelson.
He broke up with you last night. Was it you? It was him. Alright, any other questions about anything going on right now? Why these people will be funding board voting members? Seeing none, we'll move into the vote. All those approving, do we have debate on this? Alright, yeah, I need to, yeah. Is there a debate? Seeing none, move to vote. All those in favor of approving the new funding board, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? We're doing a quick quorum count. I think the people left the word senators.
Yeah, we're fine.
All those in favor of approving the nominees, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Raise your hand if you're voting. 1, 2, 3. 3 abstentions? Clearly passes. Welcome to the funding board, everyone. Your life will never be the same.
Yeah, we're 2 times over there.
I think I'm done. So if there's any questions, we can do.
Oh, yeah. When are we going to have an opportunity to talk about your chair, discuss the other parts of your campaign you can't tell us tonight other than the Senate race side? Will it be...
What do you mean by other changes?
You said you were still ironing out the details of...
It's pretty much just going to be that we're not going to have a binding budget.
Okay, so you want me to ask my specific question now? Then?
Yeah.
So, like the only thing that we kind of debated about, like the current policy is whether, students should be not allocated funding for not meeting certain deadlines. I assume that if we get rid of the required budget that they have to follow, and just because we do that doesn't mean it's going to be, just come and get money when we need it. So, like, what are the kinds of requirements that students are going to have to meet now, even if they're not going to have a budget?
So the first requirement is going to be they're going to have to do this informational budget. That's what I'm calling it. Okay, so they're going to have to fill out the informational budget. That'll have a deadline. If they don't fill out the informational budget, they'll be. We have to figure out how we're phrasing this, but I'm going to call it USG frozen, where they have to come meet with us before we'll give them funds. Doesn't mean they have to go legislative funding or anything. We'll be able to settle it between us, but we'll have to have contact from the group, and they'll have to submit that informational budget. After that, they'll have to request funds 6 weeks before their event or 6 weeks before whenever they would like the funds, as we do now.
So, how would that apply to questions of like retroactive funding, or we just meet this 6 weeks before deadline with that time getting it?
So as it stands right now, if it's a soft 6-week deadline, I guess, and it's up to the discretion of the funding board chair. Typically, anything is funded up to like the day of the event if funding board is meeting that day. You get into sketchy territory once it's retroactive, and then you have the appeals board, and then I don't think we would be banning legislative funding. We would just be greatly reducing the instances in which it would be used. So in a situation like tonight, I see that as still probably being brought up, in which a whole semester goes by and like funding wasn't asked for. But for the most cases, legislative funding wouldn't exist now because legislative funding is really one of the big reasons is because, like for Arab Students Association, I couldn't make that change because the Senate hadn't budgeted that money. But in this new scenario, they would have just been able to ask for more catering based on the event they were having, and I would have been able to approve that.
All right, I'm gonna cut this off and then say that Wednesday next week we'll be talking about this. And so, yeah, or talk to Priscilla afterwards. Talk to them in the office. All right, any questions? Seeing that, we'll move to the report of student development. Chairperson Valverde. Student development, student services combined together with Chairperson Valverde.
Okay, so everyone's really tired, so I'm just going to be quick. So first off, the sexual assault awareness campaign that we're doing, we're focusing on consent, and we actually have an artist, a student artist who's been working on all the posters, and we're having a meeting tomorrow with Steph Goebel, Steph Sponzo, and the artist, as well as Rashida. And honestly, we're really excited. We're going to get them in every single residential hall, and we're also going to make sure that we get them all around lecture buildings, and as well as implementing it in orientation. So I've been talking to my boss about putting it as a part of the skits that orientation leaders do, and also maybe putting pamphlets into the folders. Other than that, so Celeron Path groundbreaking, we actually are partnering with Take Back the Night. So a lot of people seem to be going to it, but I'm going to push that everybody goes to it because it's a big deal. Stephanie Sponzo will be having like a moment where she's going to talk about the project itself and how important it is, and they're actually going to walk through Celeron Path. So that's going to be really exciting. And then spring weekend, there's a lot going on, but Cultural Center Open House, we're focusing on the theme of cultural appropriation, so each center will be talking about that. It's April 21st from 6 to 8. It's 2 hours now. We're going to need volunteers, so I'll be sending out a Google Doc about anyone who wants to be a part of it. And I've been meeting with all the centers to talk about giveaways and what the activities are doing so that we focus more on educating students during this event. Then we have Let Them Eat Cake, and we're actually going to be putting up the sign-up forms next week, next Tuesday. And all Tier 3s and all Tier 2s are invited to do it. We're going to have all the information on there, so just push for your student groups to do it. We're also inviting Greek Life to be a part of it. Then we have Founders Day on Sunday of the spring weekend, so that's from 6:30 to 8:30. There will be tables with student groups talking about their history. We already invited a certain amount of student groups, but if you're interested in having a table for your student group to talk about what you all do and your history on campus, just shoot me an email. We'd be glad to have you. We're going to have speakers, a presentation, and unfortunately the School of Agriculture said we are not allowed to have fireworks anywhere on campus. So we are working right now with Connecticut Laser Show to try and do a laser show on the side of the pool. It's on Fairfield Place, yeah. Student services. Shoot, okay. Sorry, everybody. Eliza actually just texted me. Alright, so her report is, we are in the process of planning our table for Spring Fling. We are planning for Student Appreciation Day. We are following how students are doing with the Putnam Dining Hall closing, and so far everyone's good. We are going to be working on learning communities and trying to set up meetings with everyone involved. And if you have any questions, just text her.
Are there any questions for Chairperson Valverde? Thank you, Chairperson Valverde. We'll now move into announcements. Would anyone like to be recognized for announcements?
Just don't forget to RSVP for those 2 things, and I feel like I was kind of like my normal monotone, not excited to start talking about banquet. But do come to banquet. It's going to be a great time. We have a great DJ coming, and the food is going to be great, and the place is great, so please.
All right, and I will now adjourn at 10:30.
Take back